we are like, I do write about like Native American themes, and we're indigenous and stuff, and it's part of the band, but to me it's always been like more important to be a black metal band first. I want to like be able to claim that heritage as part of our music, but make it genuine, and I want the music to be black metal before anything else. Like if you like look at like Primordial or Bathory or something like that, their culture is like heavily ingrained in their music, but like no one is interviewing Alan from Primordial and being like, what's it like to be like a white guy in this scene, like.
Greetings, Legion, and welcome to episode 290 of Into the Necrosphere. Returning to the podcast this week is Jon Krieger from Blackbraid. It's been 2 years since he made his debut on the show. A lot has happened in that time, not least of which is the release of their fantastic new album, Blackbraid III. We spoke about the making of the record. We spoke about why Jon continues to choose to be an independent artist in 2025. We spoke about the future of Blackbraid and much, much more. This is probably one of the most candid and one of the most relaxed conversations you're going to find within anywhere, and it's coming your way very shortly. But before we get to that, we have us a premiere on the Sphere. Drugoth is going to be releasing his brand new album this coming November. It is entitled The Indomitable Spirit of Merciless Vengeance, and Drugoth knows that when it's time to introduce new music to the world, the only place to do it is right here on Into the Necrosphere. So for the very first time anywhere, for your listening pleasure, this is Inexorable Spite, Grinding Attrition. Taken from the upcoming album, The Indomitable Spirit of Merciless Vengeance, that was Drugoth. With inexorable spite, grinding attrition, you were one of the very first to hear it right here on Into the Necrosphere, and if you like it, make sure you head over to the Drugoth Bandcamp, put yourself in a pre-order, and let him know who sent you. If you like yourself some Drugoth, he is on the Weekly News Rant with me later on in this episode. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff. I'll get to that in just a second, but a quick reminder, in case you don't know, I am a proud member, a known associate of the Cosa Nostra of podcasting, the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. We are dedicated to filling your week from Monday to Sunday with mediocrity-crushing goodness, and we start off every second Monday with a new installment of Horrorwolf 666. That is brought to you by the great Brandon Legion. On a Tuesday, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses right here on Into the Necrosphere. I've got a couple of beastly episodes coming your way over the next couple of weeks. Hari Kokinen from Hooded Menace will be joining me next week to talk about Danzig, Sam Hain, and of course the brand new Hooded Menace album. And then the week after that, I finally kick off my conversation with Vincent Crowley of Acheron. I promised a couple of weeks ago that we had recorded a first episode, and we enjoyed it so much we decided to do something that was a little bit more in depth, really focused on his history, and we're going to present it to you in a couple of parts. So part one is recorded, it's in the tank, an hour and a half of just unbelievably interesting conversation that goes all the way back to the very earliest days of the Tampa Bay death metal scene. Some good news for you as well, in case you've been keeping an eye on it. Vincent Crowley was in good health, in fine spirits. The dude, and I'm not going to divulge any personal information, but he went through fucking hell on earth for a period of time there as far as his health was concerned, but fortunately he is back on the mend, and we'll be back right here on Into the Necrosphere in 2 weeks' time. On a Wednesday, we've got Everything Went Black. That's hosted by Sensei Mike Hill. It is the longest running podcast in our ranks, and it is a smorgasbord of whatever Mike is in the mood for at the time. Sometimes it could be somebody from the MMA scene, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's books. So whatever he's interested in talking about, you're going to get it on Everything Went Black. We also have on a Wednesday Iblis Manifestations. That is hosted by the Middle Eastern marauder, my brother from another mother, Cheyenne from the band Trivax. On a Thursday, we have Sensei Mike Hill returning for Necromaniacs. He is joined by Professor Jeff Gashid and the absolute legend that is the outlaw Mike Scandado. They review new and old horror movies consistently. One of my favorite podcasts of the week, one you definitely should not miss. And once you're done with that, then buckle up, because the sinister minister, the Reverend Carl Haikara, takes you on a curated tour through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric with his podcast, Soul Knocks. He is, of course, back on a Sunday to bookend that with the second installment of the week. And there you have it, my friends. There is absolutely no excuse for you not to be following us on every single digital platform, and for those of you that do, you have my eternal gratitude and thanks. You will also have my thanks and even greater levels of respect if you stick around after the conversation with John, because Drugoth is my co-host on this week's Weekly News Rant. We spoke about the recent news about Watain breaking up after their next album. We discussed the very sad news about Tomas Lindberg from At the Gates. And then, of course, we also listened to some new music, including new singles by Dying Fetus. What else did we get to here? The Suffering Hour, Inhuman Condition, and a bunch more. It is always a blast when Drugoth joins me for the Weekly News Rant, and that is coming your way later on in the show. Right now, though, sit back and enjoy as I welcome back to Into the Necrosphere, Jon Krieger from Blackbraid. Carrying on.
Yeah, I forget. Honestly, I forget he's there because he never shuts up. It's like all the time.
Yeah.
I kind of just I tune him out sometimes, but yeah.
It's the same. I've got the same situation with the dog. She's almost like I have people commenting on YouTube or commenting on the socials now already, like, oh, can't wait to see Bailey on this episode. Oh, there's Bailey. Like, they'll put the time down because she'll just at these strategically placed times in a conversation, she'll stick her head out around the corner just to look at what's going on. So, but how have you been, man? It's been it feels like longer since we last spoke, but it feels like a lot has happened since our last conversation as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely a lot has happened. I've been pretty good. It's all very crazy, especially right now, because I leave for tour in like 2 days, so there's all like this crazy prep work going on. But I guess busy's good. So
Yeah,
been very busy, but definitely very happy with everything.
Busy means that you're a man in demand, which is a good place to be. And the one thing that is interesting to me about our conversation, I still 3 years later, I still continually get comments on that on the video that's up on YouTube. And I actually noticed it was one of it seems like it's one of the only like truly long form conversations that you've done. So
Yeah,
I mean that I didn't realize it at the time, but people seem to keep going back to that, and for whatever reason, the conversation really resonates with them.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I do. I kind of shy away from the long form stuff more and more, just because um, I don't really know why. I guess I kind of get bored of it after I do a bunch of interviews, especially when like a new album's coming out. You kind of just like get in this grind of doing a bunch of interviews, but I think I probably overextended on the last one, the second album, and I was a little tired. So like Katie helps me with my PR and stuff, and I had her definitely like was like, I want to scale it way back on this one, and I think that's a good idea. Like I've been doing a lot less more, and my brain definitely it's definitely a lot better for me personally, and I feel like I enjoy them more too when I'm not like cramming them in there.
Yeah,
So.
there is. So I made this observation, and it's not to hate on anybody or to dunk on anybody, but I made this observation when I was writing for Chronicles of Chaos. I would be at these press days where it's kind of like one, you have a half an hour slot, and it's one after the other website, or there weren't really podcasts at that point, but I would sit listening to the conversations that journalists and writers were having with bands, and I kept thinking to myself, I would fucking shoot myself in the knees to avoid this crap if I were in a band. I just couldn't possibly conceive of having to have the same fucking mundane, stupid conversation over and over again. So when I started the podcast, I set out to try and avoid that as much as possible. And the worst possible thing that somebody can say to me during a conversation that we have is, yeah, I get asked that question loads of times, because then I know I've gone down the wrong track.
Yeah.
So
no, yeah, definitely. And that's what makes it fun, when you get to talk about not, but it's not the same questions and everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's always for me like every guest has something that's on their mind or something that they're interested or passionate about talking about, and the game is always trying to find what that is and then just steer them down that, and we start exploring from there. But when we spoke, first album had come out, album number 3 is out now. Let me ask you this question: what have you learned from a music business perspective in the time that you've since that first album's been released? You put out 2 more. You've adamantly stayed independent. I mean, it's clearly continuing to work for you, because I mean, I know the tour that you guys are about to go on. I had a gander at some of the dates, and I mean, a lot of the dates are either low on tickets or sold out. So the momentum keeps rolling, but you're kind of blazing your own path here, because you've become a much more prolific band than a lot of signed acts, and you've stayed completely free of any label attachments.
oh,
You
just
froze there for you just froze there for a second. I was like, have I stunned him to silence with the insight of that with that question.
Yeah, I'm back now. Can you hear me all right? It's
Yeah, no,
I'm not sure
I
if
can
it's
hear you
my
now.
internet or yours. Mine is not great here sometimes, but yeah, it looks like it's working. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely been a wild ride. I think it's a lot easier almost now. I think a lot of the hard work kind of culminated more uh when right around this time last year, whenever it was, when I was releasing, I guess 2 years now. But when we were releasing the second album, that was really like a big step up production wise from the first one. Um, Not like with the recording, but just like, we're making more copies and we're shipping to more countries, and um, like we're trying to get drop shipping involved. So that was kind of like the biggest learning experience, and like it was a huge headache. I'm really glad we stayed independent for it, but like um we're definitely kind of like didn't know what we're getting into when we were like, let's do a bigger one ourselves. And it was like a big learning experience. So the third one obviously is even bigger. We've done more than we have in the past of units, and we're shipping all over the world at this point, and we have warehouses in Europe and the US and stuff. But I mean, it kind of felt almost like that second one was like a tipping point
Mm.
where we had to get all the hard learning out of the way, and I think we kind of like knew more what we were getting into with this third one. And it's actually, even though it's bigger than the other two have been, like it's probably been easier than both of them combined, just because I do kind of feel like we've learned enough to like make it run smooth, a release run smoothly independently at this point, even like being larger. So um yeah, at this point it's like almost getting easier. It was pretty hard. There's a lot to figure out in the beginning, but I kind of like feels like it's paying off more. Like the work is becoming easier, and at the same time, like I definitely think it's helping us too. Like um so there's people that are drawn to us at this point, like just solely based off of the fact that we've remained so independent, which is
Mm.
kind of cool too. Like I never really thought that would be like a selling point for us. It was more just me being stubborn, but um, it is kind of impressive. Like looking back at it, like seeing how far we've come and knowing we did it without any labels. And
About to say, people appreciate the fact that you did it completely off your own. Yeah, obviously, you had Katie and people like that, but ultimately, it's your work. You just mentioned the drop shipping. Now, that's your idea. How did just not to give away the secret sauce, but how did how did the drop shipping deal work? How did you make that? Or what, I guess, what made you do that, and how did you set it up for the band?
oh, the second album definitely made us do that.
Hmm.
Because my wife, Wolf Mountain Productions, like she pretty much runs like my website and all all business related things, like the shipping and the warehouse and stuff. She deals with all that for me because I'm really stupid when it comes to it. Um, but I think like the main, like we were already looking into. I would just we were packing a ton of stuff and we were running out of room for it too. We'd
Hmm.
have like the bigger our store got, like it went from having like 10 15 boxes like sitting in my garage to having like 20 or 30, to like, it just keeps getting bigger. And like at some point you just can't do it at home anymore. um and like I think the second album was really the tipping point, because when we did release Blackbraid 2, we still were shipping it ourselves, and like shipping all those pre-orders, it was like well over 1,000. um
Hmm.
was like such an undertaking. We're like, yeah, we can't do this ourselves again ever. um, so that was kind of like the nail in the coffin, I guess. We were definitely already looking into having, like a fulfillment partner or something in the U.S., but that, like, as soon as that was done, she was like, we're doing it now. Like, you know, I think we were both just so tired of packing after that. We were like, we have to do some change this up at some point before we both go insane. So
it is awesome, by the way, that you have your partner helping you with this, because, you know, it just taking away those 15 minutes or 20 minutes worth of admin and things like that you would otherwise have to occupy your time with. I can imagine that's very freeing from a creative perspective. You know, it helps you focus on the band. It helps you focus on the, you know, on your purpose as an artist, rather than getting bogged down, especially being an independent artist, rather than getting bogged down by work, by just minutia, the minutia of running a band.
Yeah, and absolutely. And she's like, even, you know, she's amazing at that stuff. Like, she has tech background and stuff, and like she built the website. So like, it's even more helpful to me because I'm just so useless with that stuff. Like something that she can fix in 10 minutes on the website would, if I was running that website, it would probably take me a few days to figure it out, you know, like, so she's amazing in that aspect too. Like, definitely the reason we're able to keep doing it, you know, keep independently anyway. But
yeah. How long have you guys been together for?
Probably about 10 years, I'd say. We've been married for like 6 years now.
Yeah. So she's stuck with you now. There's no
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You know, I kind of, part of why I smile is my wife is not into metal whatsoever. I mean, I don't think that she'd heard a distorted guitar until she met me. But one of the things that's become really cool is when I go to things like Beyond the Gates, or I go to Inferno or to Fortress, you know, she's the one that's setting up the camera. Like, I jokingly, I started joking and saying she's my producer, but she has actually become like a producer now, and she's sort of my conscience with a lot of things as well, which is also nice. But just the amount of stress that takes off me when I'm sitting down with a guest, or I'm about to start doing an interview, and especially if you're interviewing somebody that, you know, I hate to use the word intimidating, but, you know, like somebody who, at least in my mind, is a big deal. Like when I interviewed Gol, the fact that she's the one setting up the camera and I don't have to worry about that shit, it makes such a fucking difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I totally get that too. Just like having any little bit of help with stuff at that point, like, it makes a lot more, it makes things way easier than you'd expect. So
how did you meet her?
How did I meet Ashley? We met at a bar. It was like a goth night, like a shitty like dive bar goth night. So we met the old-fashioned way, I guess. I don't know if people still meet at bars, but
apparently not. There's like I don't know whether you've read about it, but there's a whole epidemic of just fucking lonely people, because people that are on Tinder and on dating websites and stuff like that, for whatever reason, it just doesn't really lead to anything. You know, when I was a free and swinging single man, I was on Bumble and I was on things like that. But I mean, my wife, I had actually worked with. We then kind of lost contact, and then I noticed one day she was liking my photos on Instagram a bit more than is natural, and I invited her for dinner, and, you know, basically as soon as that dinner was done, Bumble account got closed. All my other campaigns were placed on hold, and I just knew it's like, this is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You know, I think it seems like a lot of the, like, Tinder and whatnot are like kind of enabling people to like not socialize. You know,
yeah. I
it's
totally
too
agree.
easy to stay home and do nothing at this point. So
yeah, it enables antisocial behavior, and it's weird because the tools that are supposed to bring us closer together, you know, in Tinder's case, you know, really close together, it actually pushes us further apart from each other.
Yeah, which is crazy because, you know, usually it's the other way around. Like, I'm like the most antisocial guy that exists, but I'm like, here I am telling people to like get off the internet and go socialize.
get off the internet, hang out with each other. I won't be doing it, but, you know, I'm sure it'll be nice for you. I was going to ask you that. I mean, you don't strike me as a guy who is necessarily keen on getting a huge amount of attention, but you do attract naturally a lot of attention. I remember seeing you guys at Fortress, and I mean, for when you guys played, that main hall was absolutely rammed. Like I said to you, you know, you still get a lot of I still get a lot of people commenting on the conversation that we had, and you know, as you have put out new material, you know, even though I think you haven't actually tried to go out and be a lot more publicly prolific, but you just seem to draw a lot more attention. How do you deal with the increase in attention that you get from people?
That's a good question. Yeah, it is definitely like it just keeps going. Um, it's funny because it's kind of like there's like two sides to it because you know, like when I'm home and stuff, and like you know, we've always lived in the middle of nowhere, so uh, there's nothing going on here ever. Like we're out in the woods, so I'm very antisocial at home, and like I don't want to be bothered and stuff, and like I'm not very good at responding to anyone at home when I'm like home doing nothing. But um, on the road, it's almost different. Like I I've always hated socializing, but like it's something about like meeting fans in real life is like the exception to it to me because it's just like it's so, you know, it's like kind of profound to experience like when people want to like are touched by your music and stuff.
Mm.
It's always like it's almost, I don't know, it's hard to speak on it because it's like socializing with fans is still exhausting to me, but like it's something that I'd never get sick of. Like uh you can come up to me if you know, we could be on the road and like I haven't ate or slept in 48 hours and I want to fucking kill myself. But like if you come up to me asking for an autograph, I'm still gonna be pumped, you know, like because that's at the end of the day, that's really the only reason that we're out there like and touring and stuff is because of the fans. And um it's easy to, I think a lot of bigger artists kind of forget that that really is the only reason they're there, you know. It's
Mm.
like you can write music and have people like it, but like if you want to play shows, like people need to come. And um it's kind of just, it feels like a way to kind of give back almost what they've helped give to us. Is so on the road, yeah, it's like it's different. Like on the road, to me, I love meeting and talking to people, and that's like the only time I'm up for it, really.
Mm. Can you remember the first time that somebody asked you for an autograph?
um yeah, I mean, it was like really early on actually, because again, we like kind of just jumped right into it. Because I refused. I think it's probably still has something to do with why we're doing so good now, like, you know, the trickle down effect or whatever. But in the very beginning, like I was just adamant about not playing shows, and we turned down a lot of shows. Um, and by the time we played our first show, the demand was so fucking high that like for the whole first year we were playing shows, like pretty much everything was sold out.
Mm.
Um, so like the first show we ever played was like in Los Angeles. Uh, because all my live members were out there at the time, and we practiced out there. And it was like that same September, right after I dropped the first album. And we played. I think it was the 10th, actually, September 10th. So like almost 3 years ago, right now. Um, but again, like I had turned down so many shows before that because I just didn't want to play bad shows or unsuccessful shows. And we didn't start saying yes to them until the point that it was, we were like super in demand. And I was like, all right, I'll definitely start. We can start now, you know. So I had never, like with Blackbraid, I was, when we played that first, it was at man, where was that venue? Supply and Demand. It's like a 350 cap room, I want to say. and it sold out like instantly. Like the day we announced it was just gone. And that was the first time I had ever been in a public setting at all with Blackbraid. So like from like day one, like we just walked into that room and there was already, there was like 20 people waiting when we showed up for sound check, like with asking for autographs. So like it kind of happened right away, but only because I waited so long to go into the public spotlight too, I think. So it's kind of always been there at the shows, I guess. So
yeah. What had put you off previously about playing live?
Well, I mean, it's like I'm first of all, I'm like 36 now. And when I started Blackbraid, I was like 33, so I'm pretty old. I have a lot of issues with my body. Like I have back problems and shoulder problems.
Yeah.
From like I was building houses, like doing construction before, so my body's destroyed. Just like sleeping in a van is really the most unappealing thing I could think of in the world.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to do that for like a tiny bit of money and like show up and maybe there's 50 or 100 kids at the show and like like I've seen small local bands like struggle to make it and fail so many times, and like local bands that were better than us too, like it's just really hard to make it as a band, and it's so in the beginning it's always really hard. Like it just sucks. Like you hate playing shows to nobody. Like that can be fun when you're in high school, like, oh, first show and shit, but like I'm in my 30s and I want to be in bed by like 9 o'clock. Like, I'm not partying after most of these shows. And it's like the idea of like playing shows when we were only semi-successful was just like not worth it to me. And it's still not. Like we're one of the only bands I know that like consistently turn down decent offers, because I'm just like, it's nothing against the offers we get to. It's just like I'm extremely picky with what we do, and it has to be worth it to some extent in my mind for us to do it. Because touring, even when you have a bus or something, like I don't think people realize how insanely exhausting and stressful it is. Like it's also like the coolest, most fun thing you'll ever do in your life. Like it is a huge fucking adventure, but I don't think people realize like how hard it actually is. Anyone that has ever been on an international tour will tell you that it can get pretty miserable, like no matter how fucking cool it was. Like, it could have been an Aussie tour. Like you're still gonna like want to die at some point on it.
Yeah. Well, something you point out a very, I think a very important truth about your age and how your age impacts your decision making here as well. A friend of mine, I was debating whether I should keep him nameless. I'll say it to you after we finish recording. They played in London, and they played at a fucking complete dump called the New Cross Inn. And at the New Cross Inn, they put on an exceptional show, but there was maybe about 100 to 150 people there. There's picnic tables like in the staging area that they didn't even take away. And I remember having a conversation with him afterwards, and he just said, "That's the last. I'm never playing shows. I'm never traveling from the US to come and play a show like this again. I will come for select festival dates, but that's it." And he had that year, I think, turned 50, and I got it. I was like, you're a grown man, you've got a career, you're successful. Why the fuck should you go through something like that just for the sake of playing a show? But I often think there's kind of an arrested development sometimes in the scene as well, because they'll hear us talk like this, and they'll go, they'll throw words like entitled or whatever around, and it's like, no, it's not fucking entitled. I'm a grown up man. I'm not 19 years old anymore. There's no fucking novelty to me to be on stage.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. There's no novelty to like, like living off of cheap beer and not sleeping either.
Yeah.
Like it's just not healthy, and like it's extreme. It could be extremely stressful on your body and your mind, and like it's cool when it's worth it. But I just don't. I know that it would be very easy to kind of hate the music and hate touring if we fall into that trap of like, oh, let's just take what we're offered, and some shows will be good and some shows will be bad, and I think promoters kind of hate me because like I just turn down so much, and they'll be like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just not worth it." They'll be like, "Oh, but like every other band agreed to this." I'll be like, "Yeah, I don't think we're gonna agree to it though."
Well,
And
that's nice.
like,
Yeah.
uh, and it's just kind of like, and I do love it, which is great, and I think that's like a huge factor. Is like as long as we continue to be very picky about what we do and not take tours just for the sake of having another tour, like it kind of like keeps you fresh, and when we do go out, there's so much anticipation for it, and we all just have so much fun, and if you don't over tour, then the shows are more packed, and like it's a better experience all around if I'm just a little picky about it. So
Yeah. Well,
uh
that's an excellent point as well. An overabundance of something lowers its value. If you come through the same city 3 times in a year, people are just going to go, oh, well, he'll be here again next year, so I don't need to bother going to this one. And then that starts sucking. Like there needs to be a sense of occasion when Blackbraid rolls into town.
yeah, absolutely. Like we even just last week, um I won't say the name, but we turned down a pretty giant tour, probably bigger than any of the tours we've done so far. With a band that is an older extreme metal band that I really respect, and I still love their music and stuff too. But it's just like these guys never stop touring, and like I looked at the route, and I'm like, you guys have hit these cities you want to hit 3 times in the last 2 years already, and you're gonna hit it for a fourth time. And it's like we're hitting half of these cities 5 months before this tour is proposed. Like we never hit tour that that frequently, like right after the other. And I'm like, I wish I could say yes to this, but I think you guys are over touring, and I don't want to fall into that with you. And maybe we could do this another time or something. But yeah, I get if I if you had told like 16-year-old me that I would be saying no to some of these things because I didn't want to go on tour for no reason, like uh it does feel entitled at times, but it's also like what keeps me sane, I guess, and
Well,
enjoying what I do.
yeah. There's the relationship to your music as well, and I think the worst thing that could possibly happen for you as an artist is when you start to resent your own art. I remember reading an article years ago where Pete Steele was talking about how much he hates playing Black Number One live, and I thought to myself, what a sad thing that one of your most popular songs you absolutely detest playing live.
Mhm.
And I think that comes from a place of having to go through the motions of the same cycle over and over again. I also think, as I've tried to formulate my thoughts around why certain bands that have been going for ages and ages continue to make fantastic music, but so many others start to just, it feels like they're just cranking out albums for the sake of doing it. I think there's that as well. I mean, I think the bands that are cranking out albums for the sake of doing it, many of them, if you look at you kind of mentioned a veteran band, you look at their touring cycle, you look at how much they're on the road, it becomes a job. And I
Yeah,
don't think that art should ever be a job.
no, definitely not. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like I've seen this with many of the older guys we tour with that have been doing it forever, that are way bigger than us and stuff, and like Um, unfortunately, it seems a lot of the bigger bands are more locked into it with their labels because they've just been doing it so long, and their label kind of finds ways to just like keep pushing them to do more, which is another great reason to be independent because a label will always do that. Like none of the record executives will ever be on that bus, and none of them will ever have to play a show after sleeping only 3 hours, or like have to like not have somewhere to take a shit for 48 hours. Like there's all these crazy things you go through on tour that are awful that like no one thinks of. And like a lot of these record executives will just be like, oh well, you did make some money, so let's do it again in 3 weeks. And like they'll just tour 10 out of 12 months a year and like never let them stop. Um and then they kind of get people used to like that cycle and that income, and they're like, well, now you can't afford to tour any less than 10 months a year because like, you know, like your album budget needs it. And like, you know, like now you have 3 children, and
I was
it's
just
awful,
about to
you know?
say these
Yeah,
guys start families and stuff like that, and they have obligations, and you know you can't meet those obligations. Like there's a tipping point where you go from being a band that plays weekend shows to being a band that has to constantly be touring, and when you're constantly touring, you can't hold down a job, so you need that money in order to make ends meet at home. And that's a very tricky spot to be. And I've often thought to myself, if I were in a band, what path should I choose? What would I choose? And I tell you, I'd go the weekend band route. I
yeah,
would much sooner play 5 shows a year, make those shows count, make them mean something, no matter how big I was. But you know, let's keep art as separate as possible from it becoming a chore and a day job.
yeah. And that's definitely how I feel about it too. Like I have a 1 large tour per year rule for myself.
Mm.
In the first year we started, in 2023, we did 2 big tours, and I was so fucking depressed and tired after it. I was like, we can never do 2 in a year again, and
Yeah.
we haven't since then. And yeah, like 1 really large run is, you know, perfect, and it's fun, and you kind of like, it's like the big event of the year when we have like all tour to look forward to. But that for me is that's definitely like my personal line I figured out, is like 1 is perfect. We don't do more than 1 big tour a year. And
Mm.
you know, there's some bands out there who have done 2 to 3 large tours a year for 20 years on end, and I'm just like, how are
Yeah.
they fucking
Yeah.
functioning still?
Dude,
um
I look sometimes at the touring schedule for bands like Dying Fetus and Cryptopsy and stuff like that. And you're talking like 42, 45 dates, you know, in a row. I
yeah,
could not possibly conceive of doing that. And you know, you were talking earlier about touring on a bus. I don't think people realize how fucking uncomfortable those nightliner beds actually are. Like if you actually look at, you know, these YouTube videos where they take people, you know, behind the scenes on the nightliner, it fucking sucks. And
yeah.
if
It's
you're
like,
used to any kind of creature comfort, I don't want to be in close vicinity of a bunch of fucking smelly dudes.
yeah, yeah.
That's not my idea of fun. If I were touring, I'd be Axl Rose. I want my own bus. I want my own plane.
Yeah, it's not that luxurious
No,
when it comes down to it. Like even if you have a really nice bus, like it's, you know, it's not a real bed, and like there's no shower, you know.
no.
uh,
And it's sharing a toilet with, you know, again, the same bunch of people. If people have been drinking or, you know, God forbid they stopped at a Mexican takeaway, it gets a little hairy.
yeah. Well, also like you can never shit on the bus. Like
Yeah.
I know bands that are fucking huge, 10 times the size of us, and like they're still not allowed to take a shit on the bus. Which makes sense because like if uh most of them have, like, the buses all have a toilet, but I guess the issue is like none of the venues have a place to drain the toilet.
Mm.
Like you'd have to go to like a campground or something, you know. Um, so all the bus companies are just like, yeah, you can't do that, and that's just like the rule for everyone. Which is, you know, it's almost better because then you're not like all like smelling each other's shit. But uh, you know, there's lots of things you have to think about,
Yeah.
like when am I going to see a toilet again, or like,
Yeah, no, fuck that. You like, I would never be in the position to be able to have those, you know, to think of those things. But even if I was, you've already turned me off of doing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Let me ask you this question: like being an independent band, are you able to be a little bit more assertive when it comes to some of the more ridiculous clauses that you see in the business? Like, for example, my pet hate And a lot of people that I'm friends with in bands I've spoken to about this, but merch cuts, for example, at venues, where to me, like, you're the one attracting the crowd. You're the one that's getting the people in who are going to spend their money at the bar. If I'm going to have to give you 25% of my merch, surely I should get 25% of the bar.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell that. I say that a lot too. It usually almost never works. I mean, I've said that to many people. We've never gotten any cut of the bar anywhere, but they have dropped the merch cut once or twice once I brought that up. So it's
Yeah.
doing something, I guess. But honestly, it's very situational with stuff like that. Uh, I probably shouldn't say this, but I will anyway. But I've found in those situations, a PSA for other small bands, I guess, is instead of pushing back, which I used to do every time, it's a lot easier to just lie. Uh, and at the end, we sold 300
God, it
shirts.
was a slow
But
night, dude.
when they asked,
10 shirts at most.
yeah, 15 shirts and 3 CDs. Looks like your cut is $12.
Yeah.
And a lot of them know you're lying and get a little angry about it. But at the end of the day, if you keep a straight face that it's your word versus them, they also know they're robbing you. So 12 o'clock rolls
Well,
around and
that's
you have to leave, and there's nothing they can really do at some
I'm
point.
about to say, to me, that's exactly what it is. That is fucking extortion.
Yeah,
It's no different. I've often joked with Katie and said, like, the one thing that I could never become a manager of a band, because I think that, one, I'd be very aggressive with how I manage the band, but no one would want to work with a band because they'd hate me too much. So, just because, I mean, I come from a business background, so when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, the only reason that you're able to get away with this fucking bullshit is because it is woven into the DNA. This corruption and this incompetence is woven into the DNA of the music industry, and that is the only way that you managing to get away with it, to the detriment of all the artists. And at some point, there's going to be a comeuppance for that. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah. Something that we have experienced, like, now that you say that makes me think of it too, is like, we have in Europe is especially hard for us with the festivals, because they'll take a cut and then we'll usually owe 25% VAT on top of the cut. So like anywhere that takes a cut in Europe is pretty much not worth it when you combine those two numbers. So there has been a few times where they've been like, oh, like, this is the VAT and this is the cut, for huge festivals, and we'll be like, okay, well, we're just not going to bring merch. It's not worth it. And then they come back and they're like, oh, well, we can waive the cut, or we could like fix the VAT. Like, once you say, yeah, we're not bringing anything, it also can usually get you you a little leeway at some point, because they know that, at the end of the day, like, if they take a 5% cut, and you have merch, it's still more than them taking 25 and you bringing nothing. So,
it's also it's not related to merch, but something else where I gave a friend of mine advice. Bands that are that sometimes fall within the eye line of the mob. I said to him, I've said to other bands, and I know fortunately they've now adopted it. But I said, put a clause in your contract that has a sliding scale that says, if you cancel our performers for any other reason than the entire event being canceled and called off, then you owe us X amount of our show money. So if we're 3 months out, you owe us 25%. If you're 2 months out, you owe us 50%. If we're a month out, you owe us 75%. And if it's less than a month, you owe us the full show fee. Because I could theoretically have gone out and booked myself another show or another festival around about that same time. I don't need to play your show. And, it also helps you separate people that are actually serious about having your band on versus people that were like, okay, their name's going to be cool, but then as soon as somebody complains and said, oh, the band makes me feel terrified when they come on stage, who would want to work with those people?
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. And I think we do have that. Again, my wife like handles all the contracts for me as well. 'Cause she's
You just
just
do
so
the
much
you just do the
better
strong
at that
arming.
stuff. But that is in our that is definitely in our contracts for festivals. Like uh if it I think we have like a 2 week clause. Like if you cancel within 2 weeks, you still owe us 100% of the fee. Uh
Yeah,
if it was canceled for pretty much any reason that's not weather, like
yeah.
whether
That's
you can
not.
cancel like the day of or something, but eh, eh.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you were mentioning Europe earlier, and I saw you guys play at Fortress. You got an incredible response. You seem to get a lot of love from European audiences. Like when you first started touring with Blackbraid, your first trips to Europe, were those the first time that were those some of the first times you had been to Europe, just generally from a travel perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to like Norway and Finland before,
Hmm.
um, like as a tourist. Uh, I'm trying to think. I think like Scandinavia, like we had been to Denmark too. Um, but I think that's really it. But outside of like Norway and Finland and Denmark, I don't think I had been in Europe at all
Hmm.
until we started touring. Yeah. So.
How did you find the difference between touring Europe versus touring America?
Oh, it's all around better, I think. you
Hmm.
know. Unfortunately, well, I mean, there is some really nice things about America, like um, the hotels are nicer and the food is better. But overall, it's just much easier in Europe.
Hmm.
Like, uh, well, when you say the food is better, it's like it's also a highly debatable thing because, uh, like in Europe, you get good food at the venue. So, like you
Hmm.
get catering everywhere is much more standard, and like uh, that would never happen in America, unless you're like paying up the butt for it. And like we usually just do like a buyout or something instead. But like so yeah, it's like a toss up because like the venue food is much better and they give you real dinners and stuff in Europe, but like uh it's always like I guess like it's really hard to find good like Asian and Mexican stuff in Europe, but that's just
Hmm.
everywhere in the US. So I guess we're a little spoiled with that. But again, like you're buying it in the US, whereas you're getting like a free meal in Europe. So but the big thing in Europe I'd also say is like the buses are cheaper, which definitely helps. And the drives are at least half the distance.
Hmm.
Um, in a month in Europe, like I'm bad at the metric conversion, but like in a month in Europe, we might drive eight or 10,000 miles. Where in like a month in the US, it would be like 25 to 30,000 miles. Like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
just driving like 8 to 10 hours in between shows every night, like all the time. Like everything is just so fucking far apart. Um, there's just so much driving and it gets really tiring after a
Hmm.
while. Like in Europe, you almost never have to drive more than 5 hours to the next gig, which is like really fucking nice sometimes.
Yeah. When it comes to food, like what kind of, you mentioned Asian and Mexican, but what food tends to be your go to when you're on, generally speaking, and when you're on tour?
um, I mean, I'll eat anything to be honest with you. I just love food. Like I love international food like that. Like Asian and Mexican are probably like my biggest go tos uh, in the U.S. But I also love like pub food. Um, on tour, like I usually put like a deli platter on
Hmm.
our rider. So we just have like like cold cuts, like turkey and cheese and lettuce and tomato and stuff with like bread and mayonnaise and mustard when we show up. And um, honestly, like I probably end up just eating sandwiches 90% of the time because there's I love having them like in the green room and you could just like throw them together in like 30 seconds and like not have to go anywhere and order anything. And so it's pretty funny because I love food, but I end up eating like awful. Like Sam, like
Yeah.
a ham and cheese sandwich every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes is what I just eat when I'm on tour.
Dude, and as you get older, that catches up to you as well. Like if I've had a week where I've eaten just dog shit food, I feel like complete garbage. It feels like somebody has stuck cotton wool in my brain. I just feel fuzzy. Like my whole body feels weird. I've got pains all over the place. And then I think to myself, when I was 20, I would, I could stop by a McDonald's on the way home, pick up 5 cheeseburgers, eat them in the car, and be absolutely fine. Like, those days are well and truly gone. But the part of the reason for asking you that is, I mean, I know you live in the you live on the, I wouldn't say you live off the land, but you live outside, same as me. So I was checking to see whether you're a vegan or not, or whether you eat meat.
Oh no, I mean I hunt and stuff. Like hunting and fishing is huge in my town, so
yeah.
no, I definitely eat a lot of meat. But it's funny you say that about McDonald's because like the road is like the opposite. For me, it's like the only time you can eat complete shit and like be okay, because like you're just expending so much energy every day that it doesn't matter. Like at home, if I ate like a fucking Whopper or like a Big Mac or something, I would feel like garbage the next day. Because I never eat like that. But like on tour, like we're playing for over an hour every night. You're just sweating your ass off. It's like running a marathon or like working out all day. Like you have 1,000 pounds of gear and merch, 20 boxes of merch and all these amps and cabs and stuff. And like every day you take it out of the trailer and you carry it all into the venue. And then every night you fucking take it back out. And like it really is like running a marathon. Like I can't tell you how many times we've been touring and it's like below the freezing level and I'm out there in like shorts and a tank top loading the trailer because you're just like you do that after you get off stage and you're already pouring sweat and it's like, oh, venue's closed, time to go. And like you just I sweat so much that I burn so much energy on tour. Like it's the one time where like I will just like we'll go to McDonald's and I'll fucking buy like 3 quarter pounders and eat them all and I'll be like, I'm still hungry. And like
well, I remember you at Fortress looking pretty lean and mean, but you were, in fairness, but I sweat a lot as well, but you were sweating like crazy. But then you're pretty physical on stage. So I guess, between carrying shit, you're getting your weight work done, and being on stage, you're getting your cardio done as well. But
yeah, like a forced workout.
Basically, yeah. Well, we're talking earlier about like, touring with bigger bands, playing with bigger bands. Have you ever had like a completely surreal moment where you're either on stage with somebody or, you're supporting a band and you're looking at it and you're going, holy fuck, in a million years, if you told me this 20 years ago that I'd be playing with band X, I would have told you that you're absolutely insane.
Oh yeah. I mean, that happens all the time. At least once per tour, something insane happens like that. And I'm just like, holy shit, how is this happening right now?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that has ever happened to me in regards to that was probably fucking yesterday. Actually, it was funny you asked that because like we went to me and my wife went to see Pantera in Amon Amarth last night, and we talked to some of the guys in Amon Amarth, and they're very friendly. So like they invited us to come out, and we were hanging out with them and shit. And like at the end of the night, they were like, "Oh, like Zakk Wylde wants us to come on stage with him and do this Pantera song. You have to come with us." So like yeah, last night we were down there at this Pantera show, and I suddenly like find myself on stage like singing "Walk" with Zakk Wylde.
Holy fuck!
And Zakk Wylde is there, like we're fucking hanging on him, like he wants to like bang heads with us and shit while he's like soloing, and I'm like, that was probably the most surreal thing that's happened to me yet. Was doing like Pantera with Zakk Wylde last night.
Dude, that must have been absolutely fucking insane.
That was definitely a fucking trip. Like, there's pyro going off all around us. Like, we never have pyro, so we're not that cool yet. So I'm
Yeah, yeah.
like, Zach is there, and we're in this big outdoor stadium, and I'm up there with him on a Marth, like screaming "walk" with them, and that was pretty fucking surreal.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the bigger oh shit moments I've had.
Did you get to meet Zach, Phil, and the other guys?
I did not know. I just very briefly, like walking on stage, like, "Hey, come do this with us," and then it was on and off. I shook his hand, but that was the extent of it. Really, it was more of the Amon and Martha are great dudes, and they had me come out and stuff and hang out with them. So it was more their doing than anything, but it was still a very fucking cool experience. So
I met Phil once, and I was curious as to what your impression was of him, if you'd met him. But I thought that he was like one of the friendliest guys, but there's this undercurrent of just extraordinary. I've never come across somebody that just has this sort of unspoken intensity about them. Like, I remember shaking his hand, and it was like the way that he looks at you when he shakes your hand. It's like he's like friendly and he's smiling, and we're having a very cordial conversation, but you could just tell like there was just something that was just very different about this cat, and in a cool way, because
yeah,
I was also shaking his hand, thinking, holy shit. When I was 15 years old, like Phil Anselmo to me was just the fucking apex of frontmen. I had
absolutely,
these
yeah.
posters all over my wall. So again, I can only imagine how it must have been for you on stage doing "Walk" of all songs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, growing up in the U.S. as a metalhead, like it's like Pantera and Metallica were always
Yeah.
like the two untouchable bands to me, and like I grew up listening to Cowboys from Hell, so yeah, it was pretty fucking surreal.
You went through a period of time where, and you must tell me if I was imagining this or whether I was just reading some bullshit. Like, but I could swear that when you had put out Blackbraid II, you said that you were going to slow down for a period of time before you do the next album. And then 3 kind of caught me by surprise a little bit because I thought, okay, it's going to be a few years before we hear something again. What changed in that time that made you want to go and record another record?
I guess I didn't really think when I put Blackbraid 2 out, I was like super happy with it. And I thought I was like done playing music like that. And my thoughts at that time were like, I want to do more Blackbraid, but I want to take my time and do something more atmospheric and completely kind of 180. And yeah, when it came out, I really thought like I'm done with this type of sound, I guess, and like I want to take a long time to think and write something different and new. But then, like shortly after it came out, the more I listened back and stuff, and I just started getting more inspired, and I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm not done. Like I think I could write another album in this vein that's better than the first two. So I had this plan to kind of really like take my time to write something very different and switch up directions, and it just never happened. Like these songs started pouring out of me that were I think they're definitely better and evolved in a way, but they're not very much in a different direction. Like it's kind of more doubling down on the sound I had already started with, so they're like similar in that way. And I guess I just didn't think I was going to write another record like that. I thought I was going to take a long time and do something very different, and I guess my brain, you know, was I probably was like halfway done with the album even, because I'll often record stuff with no plan for it, and I'll just be like, I want to get this down while my brain is good, and I'll put it on the back burner and I'll come back to it when I have more ideas. So like I was probably like halfway done recording the album, almost like 5 out of 10 songs before I was actually like, all right, let's make this an album. Because I was just like my brain was so locked onto the fact that like I wasn't I was going to do something different. But I guess musically my brain had other ideas, and I know, I don't know if anyone will believe me, but I would say the same thing now. Like, I think it will probably be a very long time before a Blackbraid 4, and when it comes out, it would be something very different.
Mm.
Because I do like still want to kind of change directions with it and explore more raw atmospheric stuff with Blackbraid. But that was my intention after I finished the last one too, and I got derailed somewhere along the line. So
When do you feel like you're at your most creative? Because I mean, what I like about Blackbraid 3, it really does sound like a very authentic expression of Blackbraid's music. I think you can very quickly hear when a band has done something because they felt that was what was expected of them, versus this is at the time that this record is being released, this is an authentic expression for me of where I am artistically, and you really hear that, with everything from the songs themselves to the instrumentals to the lyrics. It's such a great evolution for me from the first album to this point. But why let's stay with the creativity. Like, when does that creativity seem to hit you the most?
honestly, I wish I knew because I'm pretty bad at writing. It's so random to me, and I can never really predict it. Um, like some songs, like Spirit Returns or like God of Black Blood. Both of those songs I wrote in like 15 minutes. Like they weren't anything, and then I just sat down and started writing. And like 20 minutes later, the full song was done, and I was like, "Holy shit! I just wrote a fucking really cool full song." But then there's other times like Tears of the Dawn is probably the best example. I think it's track 7 on this new album. Like that song took me over 3 years to write. Like that song I actually started writing around the time I wrote Ghost Dance, which is like the very first song I ever put out.
Mm.
And on the first album, it wasn't ready, and the second one came around, and it still wasn't ready. And I finally managed to finish it up for this one, but like that song was like pulling teeth. It took me 3.5 years to finish it. So it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like I think sometimes probably my best inspiration comes when I'm like not looking for it, which I've learned to like is a little easier for me. Like sometimes I'll get half a song done or something, or have like a really good concept for a song, but I haven't put like I haven't finished the lyrics, or like it's not polished enough. And I find that like if I'm really fixating on finishing the song, it never happens. But if I
Mm.
just like forget about it and like let myself go camping, or go hiking or go on a vacation or something, and just like do anything but work on it, it's eventually comes back to me a bit stronger. Um, so I think like learning to not fixate on finishing songs and kind of just let them come to me when they're ready is a big thing. Um, the other two things is like I always have like a little brief wave of inspiration when I get back from tour. Um, no matter what tour it is, just if we're out for a long time, it doesn't matter who the band is. Like just watching other guys play black metal and do their own thing, and uh, from like a completely outside perspective, bands that aren't involved with us like at all, like anyone we toured with, really just watching them do their own thing on their own terms, like often like kind of I think inspires me subconsciously. Like I'm always too busy to write I've never written anything on the road ever. Like there's
Mm.
just too much going on and my brain is too crazy. But it feels like those experiences kind of like pool in my brain, and sometimes like a week after I get home from a long tour, stuff will start pouring out of me, and it's kind of like pent up things that I have retained on the road that I couldn't process until I was like alone at home, I think. So sometimes that happens, and that's awesome, but I don't count on it. And lastly, I think it would be like the winter. The winters are super harsh here. It gets dark really early. You know, we have like a ton of there's not much daylight, like the ton of darkness in the winter. It gets dark early and stays dark late into the morning, um and I also refuse to tour during the winter. Like, we've never played a winter show, and I still won't. It's just so hard to travel during the winter, and we get a ton of snow where I live too. You know, my driveway itself is just the driveway is like a quarter mile long, which is probably like it's like 400 meters or something. So it's pretty long, and I have to plow it myself. And we'll get snow like up to your hip, like it gets really fucking deep sometimes, and it can be really dangerous if we get a big snowstorm and I'm not here to plow it. Like, you'll be stuck for the rest of the winter if it freezes without it plowing. So I insist on staying home all winter, and like that's also kind of become my writing period. Like, it's dark by fucking 4:30 in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, it's sun's down, and I fucking go downstairs and I'll drink beer and write music for like 5 hours, and it's still only 9 o'clock. Like, the darkness and the snow almost like kind of forces me to sit with myself. Like, I know there's nothing else to do, and so the winter does help me a lot too, I think. But
by the way, I was trying to be as professional about it as possible, but my fucking headphone, I could hear what you're saying because my wireless connected, but my fucking headphone jack dropped out.
Oh no.
Bundling my microphone essentially. it was for that reason. You mentioned wanting to kind of go this rawer, more atmospheric route. Like, do you have a reference point for what that sounds like, and what kind of drove you down that direction? What made you decide that you want to do, because it sounds like it was a very conscious decision that you want to try something like that. What made you what made you think that that's where you want to take Blackbraid?
I do, yeah. It's I don't think it's like any particular thing that's pushed me in that way. It's just like there's like I kind of just have these ideas for more atmospheric stuff, like very like Wolves in the Throne Room, Zaster type shit that I've always wanted to do. And that's like the one genre of black metal outside of what I'm already doing that I feel like I could really nail if I sat down and tried it, or perfected it, And I do have like these little ideas floating around in my head, but not enough for an album. And it's always kind of just been on the back burner. Like, I can only write this style of black metal for so many albums, but I love black metal and I don't want to stop writing it. And I don't want to stop Blackbraid either, but it's also like I don't want to become one of those bands that just puts out like 5 or 10 completely identical albums, So it's kind of just always been in the back of my mind that I want to switch, and like the more I put out, the more I feel like I'm ready to switch. And at this point, after the third album, I really feel like the third was kind of the perfection of what I was trying to do with the first three. And at this point, I think it will be the next thing I do. It might be a long time away, but I think I would still do like kind of a more atmospheric and raw switch up at this point. Like, I'm so happy with how 3 came out that I don't think there's much to expand on.
About to say there's no point going back to it and trying to recreate it.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you've already hit the benchmark that you wanna hit. You mentioned bands on tour inspiring you. Like who are like examples of bands that you've seen or that you generally look up to and you go like, these guys have it dialed in?
Honestly, almost everyone. Like every time we go somewhere for something, there's always one band that I'm just like, holy shit, these guys are good.
Yeah, because you are. I mean, you are, from all the interactions I've had with you, looking at the bands you've covered. You're a fan of this music first and foremost.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say most recently it's been Dodrit, really. Those guys are good friends of mine, and we love those guys to death. And I've known them forever. My first time seeing them live was when we started touring with them. Like we were friends
Mm.
before, but we did the tour we're doing right now is actually the same one as last year. We toured most of Europe with Dodgert and Lamp of Murmur last fall, and it was so fun and successful that we're like, fuck it, we'll do the same thing in the US. So we're doing the same lineup when we start next week. But yeah, like recently, it's in the last year or so, it's always been Dodgert. Like when those guys show up to play with us, they're just fucking perfect every night. They're such phenomenal musicians. The way they play their guitars, like um, they're better guitarists than me, and it's like their amps always sound fucking perfect, and it's
Mm.
just like it's really like keeps you on your toes having them around because they're very good friends of ours. So there's like no weird hostility or anything, but at the same time, it's like you really can't play a bad show when you're on tour with Dodgert because like you will look very bad. Like they always come out like sounding fucking perfect every night.
Yeah, yeah. There's this. I mean, it's that saying of iron sharpens iron, and I think I've always imagined that to be very true of the bands that you go on tour with. If you're on tour with a band that is absolutely uncompromisingly great every single night, night after night, you would feel like if you have any self respect, you'd feel like a complete asshole following them and not putting
Yeah.
putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, I'm like I'm always practicing and shit. I'm always thinking I'm good at guitar, and I'm like I got pretty good this year, and then I'll fucking meet up with them, and like I'll watch Gigi play one show, and I'll be like I need to go practice right now, and I'm like
I need to get my act together.
I need to.
Yeah. Bringing it full circle, we were talking at the beginning of the conversation about the media, and you have a pretty interesting relationship with the media in that conversations I've had with various folk and observations I've made, it's always felt to me like the media tries to push you into a certain direction with the way that they try and frame conversations, interviews, and things like that. That really, I don't. From every interaction I've had with you, you don't seem particularly interested in that. What is it about the media that you think has kind of given them this fixation on trying to present you as something that I don't think that you actually are?
Yeah, well, it's like a very fine line, because like in Blackbraid, like uh we are like I do write about like Native American themes, and we're indigenous and stuff, and uh it's part of the band, but um to me it's always been like more important to be a black metal band first, because we're definitely not a folk metal band.
Mm,
um like you see like nothing against any folk metal bands either, but if you look at folk metal like Fintroll or Corpacrani or something like that, like it's really fucking fun and interesting, but like it's also like this is this image we've created for ourselves, and uh this is what the music is about. Even like you look at bands like Party Cannon or Gudalox, like you don't like I don't want to call them a gimmick, but like it's clearly like a theme that they have that has made them popular.
mm.
Because like we've played with both of those bands too, and they were fucking awesome. So, I can't say anything bad about them, but um, like especially Party Cannon, I think we played in Finland with, and I was like, this band looks like a joke, and then they went on, and I was like, holy shit, this is pretty fucking cool. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just like with Blackbraid, it's always been more important to me to be just black metal first, mostly because like there is no like Native American black metal band that's huge. Like I'm not saying we need to be huge. There's many of them that came before us that are better than us, but like in like the limelight, like it almost seems like the ones that get the most attention are more gimmicky, and I want to like be able to claim that heritage is part of our music, but you know, make it genuine. And I want the music to be black metal before anything else. Like if you look at other like even European examples of bands like putting their heritage in the music, like um if you like look at like Primordial or Bathory or something like that, their you know their culture is like heavily ingrained in their music, but like no one is interviewing Alan from Primordial and being like, what's it like to be like a white guy in this scene, you know, like it just seems like it's too easy of a cop out question, you know.
What's
like
it like to be Irish, Alan?
yeah, it's like it's
Yeah.
obviously it's in the music, but like it doesn't need to be what the music is. So to me, like from the start, like the bands that I love and respect and look up to the most in black metal are bands, you know, like Bathory and Immortal and Dissection and Emperor and stuff. And like if you look at all these bands, like their culture is in there, but like you would never listen to an Immortal album and be like, these guys are definitely Norse. Like it sounds like fucking black and death metal. That's all it sounds like, you know. Like if you don't look at the lyrics, you probably don't know what's going on other than holy shit, they shred. And that's kind of the way I prefer it to be with Blackbraid 2 is like I just want to write really good sick black metal, and I don't really want to rely on like the flute or like tribal drums or anything. Like I'd like it more to be almost something like, you know, like people wouldn't even know that we're a native band until they go look it up or do some digging. Like I never want that to be like a crutch for us, I guess. So I always like in my head it's important to make the distinction, but at the same time, like it's black metal will always be the first thing, you know, to me. And just
Well,
be making good black metal.
it's a question. It's a question for me, and it's a distinction in this instance between being influenced by your heritage and being defined by your heritage. And I think that you guys definitely are in the former camp. You know, which is and that influence is what makes your music special in a lot of ways. But as you say, like if that's your sole stock and trade, you know, then that's a problem.
Yeah, like I definitely like I love both aspects of it, but like I started this band because I wanted to play black metal, not because I wanted to play Native American music. So yeah, it's you know, we're playing both, but and I think a lot of people understand that. Like it's you know, it's but it's the ones that don't understand that I kind of avoid, I guess.
I also feel like what they've done is to create an unfair amount of ill feeling towards Blackbraid. I mean, there's an element in the black metal scene anyway where they can't see a band do well without thinking ill of the band. You know, and I think all of us maybe to a point are potentially guilty of that to some degree, but they can't. They seem to. They'll see an article put out by a particular website. The article's framed in a certain way, and that immediately colors their view of the band, rather than thinking, well, it's not the work of the band. The band sat down and did in your case, you sat down and did a half an hour interview, and the writer went away and they framed that conversation to present you in a certain fashion, which is why I prefer podcasts and I prefer this platform, because I like, you know, I've always said to people, I'm never going to have you on the show because I want to make you look like an asshole. You know, yeah. I'm getting you on because I like your music to begin with, but I want people to be able to see the musician for who they are, you know, unvarnished in whatever way they come across, and then they can decide for themselves. You know, do I think this cat's on the level or do I not? generally speaking, I've only had 2-3 people on the show who I don't like. So hopefully people get that sense too that they're good dudes. But I don't want to ramble on, John. I want to say thank you so much for your time. Such a great conversation, and congratulations on Blackbraid 3. I'm really looking forward to whatever it is you decide to do with 4. I do like me a bit of the raw stuff as well. Even though I was super impressed with the production on this third album. It sounds, if you have it on a nicely appointed hi-fi, it sounds fucking fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I think like on this album, Swedish Melodeath kind of played a big role in the like very classic Swedish Melodeath from like the early '90s. Played kind of more of an influence than I expected originally, and I think kind of like the big production comes from that as well. But yeah, I think it's will definitely be a switch up, a bit less refined in the future whenever I do put something up again. So
awesome. All right, my man. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll run into you at some point at a show. And like I said, we'll do one of these again down the road too.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. So.
Ah!
You just heard And He Became the Burning Star's unmistakably Blackbraid, and that is taken from the album Blackbraid III, out right now on Bandcamp. Head over there, buy yourself some music, pick up a vinyl if you've got the money and the equipment to enjoy it on. And of course, if you do, let John know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere who sent you. Big thank you to him. What a blast catching up with him. And I'll tell you what, if you find a more candid and a more in-depth conversation with him anywhere, I'd love to see it. I don't think there is a single podcast that has gotten a conversation and an interview like that with him. And he, of course, has an open invite to return to the show anytime he wishes. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did recording it. Right now, my friends, I'm going to be joined by the mighty Drugoth for the Weekly News Rant, but I've got a quick little something to get off my chest before we get started. If you believe that Life Lover, Agriculture, and Dawn Raid are black metal bands, you're probably going to get your feelings hurt by what Drugoth and I have to say to each other over the course of the next hour or so. So that is a cue for you to pack your bags and hit the bricks, because this is my Weekly News Rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
The mighty Drugoth, welcome back to Into the Necrosphere, brother. How have you been?
I've been well. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure having you, mate. And particularly on the eve of yet another Drugoth banger about to be released. So the Indomitable Spirit of Merciless Vengeance, you sent it to me earlier this week. And I mean, I think the title pretty much describes the record. It is just a unrelenting, unyielding fucking blast from start to finish.
Yeah, pretty much. There's no soy products at all, or faken in this album, I'm afraid.
No turkey bacon used for the production of this record.
No, sorry.
Have you ever eaten turkey bacon?
No,
Fucking foul.
I don't
Foul,
believe in it. I don't believe it exists.
You've chosen in your life to remove its existence from your purview.
Yeah, it doesn't exist to me.
Yeah. No, well, dude, as I said, congratulations on the new record. Very happy and very pleased that we could premiere the new single on the show as well. So, you know, again, hopefully people have paid close attention and they're going to go check out the record. But we will talk more about the production of the album and about all the many other things that you've got going on. But we need to get some very sad news out of the way first and foremost. And it feels like, unfortunately, in metal right now, well, certainly in 2025, sad news has been basically a regular occurrence on almost every single news rant. This one, to me, I must confess, though, probably hit me a little harder, and I'll explain why in a second. But as most of you should know by now, Tomas Lindberg, the frontman for At the Gates and many, many other bands, passed away very tragically at the age of 52. He had adenoid cystic carcinoma, which is a rare form of cancer affecting the mouth and the palate. There had been a post a couple of months ago where he spoke about being diagnosed, the treatment, and the fact that prior to the treatment, he had completed the new At the Gates record. And when I had Bryce Leclerc on the podcast, we spoke about it, of course. And ironically, on the day that I released that episode where we had spoken about how we hoped he pulled through, what a great guy he was, what an excellent frontman he was, this news broke quite unexpectedly. And yeah, it's just horrible, fucking disgusting news to read. The guy is 52 years old. 52 years old is young as far as I'm concerned, especially in this day and age. And Thomas was just a great guy. You know, I met him in 2002 when The Great Deceiver opened for Napalm Death. 2002 was pre-Chronicles of Chaos. It was pre any form of involvement in the metal scene. I was relatively fresh off the boat in the UK. And so meeting a guy who was a legend of legends, because of course, At the Gates was massive in South Africa, and it was a massive band generally speaking amongst everyone that I knew. Meeting a guy like that, you couldn't help but be a little starstruck. And even though we only spent about 10 minutes talking to each other, he was just such a relaxed, such a friendly guy, just made you feel fucking fantastic. And I can't even remember what we said to each other, but it does bring to mind the saying that it's not what you say, it's how you make people feel. And he made me feel like he was pleased to meet me as much as I was pleased to meet him. So this news is fucking complete and utter shit. The body of work that he leaves behind is incredible. I mentioned At the Gates, so obviously everyone knows that. The Lockup albums that he appeared on, Hatebreed, Suffering, Violent Reprisal, Necropolis, Transparent, really everything that he did with Lockup to me is essential listening. The Great Deceiver, particularly the first album, is essential listening. The Lurking Fear is fucking great. Of course, there's Grotesque. Most people have checked out the Grotesque demos and the Grotesque EP masterpieces all. So he's a guy whose legacy is going to outlast him without question. People are going to discover Tomas Lindberg's work in 2025 as much as they're going to discover it in 2055. But as I said on Instagram, it doesn't make it any less difficult or any less hard for us to have to say goodbye. So to anybody who's a friend of or a family member of Tomas who might be listening to this, just know that the sadness is felt all over the world. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way, but my sincerest condolences for your loss. And as I said, he'll be remembered until the end of time. All right, so let's move into some news, and let's just get the old tab change here. The first news headline that is grabbing my attention: November announced their first studio album in 9 years. It says here 9 years after the release of their last studio album, Ursa, Italian metal crew November now return with a new one entitled Words of Indigo. Words of Indigo. It's set to land in stores on November the 7th, 2025 via Peaceful Records, and they've got a song here called Your Hollow Scene. So let's give that one a quick listen. On second thought, let's not give that a listen, because the mumbling fucking vocals, it sounded to me like someone was doing a Bush cover with slightly heavier guitar. So we'll give that one a hard pass, because we're going to move straight into the hard stuff, because Dying Fetus has got a brand new single. It's called Into the Cesspool. It says here, before they head out on North American headline tour next week, death metal masters Dying Fetus have unveiled their brand new video for the song Into the Cesspool. I'm going to assume, Drugoth, that you're a fan of Dying Fetus.
Yes and no. I'm a fan of the older Dying Fetus. I don't want to say like I grew out of it, but it's a pre-workout for me.
A pre-workout.
I'm a fan of the kill your mother, rape your dog era Dying Fetus, and the new stuff's great, but I always circle back to the older albums. It's more. Maybe
so
it's the
purification through violence, killing on adrenaline, destroy the opposition.
Killing on adrenaline and destroy the opposition are go-tos on the way.
Where did you tap out? Was it after Destroy the Opposition?
No, not really. I just a new album came out. I just listened to it once. It didn't really sit with me, and I always seem to circle back to the OGs. But I'm interested in hearing what this new one sounds like.
I'll just say this with regards to Dying Fetus. So Stop at Nothing, War of Attrition, and Descend into Depravity were the 3 records that followed Destroy the Opposition. And particularly around War of Attrition and Descend into Depravity, I was still a fan of the band, but I didn't find myself getting as excited about new Dying Fetus music as I had once gotten. And I think I found myself in a similar place to you. the record that really reignited the spark for me and actually made me go back and listen to those albums and appreciate them a lot more than I had done on first listen was Reign Supreme that came out in 2012. So if you haven't spent a lot of time with Reign Supreme, definitely do that, because it may very well change your view on things. You might take it into the first few rounds of your workout rather than just on the way to the gym. So all right. Yeah.
I like how they seem to get more recognition nowadays by, I guess, the hardcore community. Like they'll play like a hardcore show and like people go absolutely apeshit for it, which is, I don't know, slam seems to be a bit of a popular thing at the moment. So it's good they're getting a bit more recognition from other sort of communities.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's interesting to me is they have if you go on Spotify, they have 257,000 monthly listeners. Now, for reference, the average band probably that we will feature on this podcast has maybe tens of thousands, if not 5, 6, 7,000. Behemoth has 370,000 monthly listeners, and of course they're a bit bigger, but 257,000 for a band who is that heavy is unheard of. And again, what you have to appreciate about them is all of their success was achieved without any sort of compromise. I mean, they have done literally nothing to compromise whatsoever. You can talk about a lot of the slam bands, and a lot of the deathcore bands, but there's always, with most of those bands, you can point to something that they did to maybe tone down the sound a little bit, make it a little bit more appealing to the youth. Whereas Dying Fetus did nothing of the sort. I would argue they are more aggressive and more heavy now than they've ever been.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, on that note, let's hear what Into the Cesspool sounds like. There at the 2-minute mark. What are your thoughts?
That's heavy as balls, mate. That is fucking. I don't know. Are you drinking coffee there, or are you drinking just pure protein? Because that's some heavy shit.
Yeah, no, that is hard as fuck. I mean, again, very much in keeping with Make Them Beg for Death. They don't say anything here about when that track was recorded. It sounds like it very well could have been recorded during those Make Them Beg for Death sessions. They're not really a band that turn around albums at pace, and certainly haven't been for the last 10, 15 years. But judged on its own merits, it's fucking beastly, absolutely savage. I mean, it's got all the typical Dying Fetus hallmarks wrapped in a very nice production job. No compromise, no relent, no mercy, exactly as they should be.
Yeah, I always sort of like had this thought in mind about Dying Fetus, and it's definitely not a bad thing. It's almost like they're like hardcore guys, but then they couldn't find a drummer, so they just got a death metal drummer, and it just works perfectly. Like, and I'm all for it. To the point, well, you're a fan of it as well. The dual vocals, like
Oh
they
yeah.
handle that perfectly. I think, like, yeah, the bass work is phenomenal. The drums are intricate and creative, but still, it's I know like they're triggered and everything, but it still sounds like a human is behind that writing process of the drums and the performance of the drums as well. But yeah, I am going to give it a very hearty thumbs up from me. I'm a bit particular. I've been thinking about it all week, on how easily I'll give a top notch, but this is a thumbs up, a very hearty thumbs up. But I'm not quite at the top notch level yet.
Well, I'm a Dying Fetus. I wouldn't say aficionado. I mean, I'm just a diehard Dying Fetus fan. There's no masking it whatsoever. They will have to go really far to put out a song. I think that's garbage when you consider their technical ability. And as you kind of hinted at, the thing that they do exceptionally well is they can blend technical with that hardcore groove and slam, but it's that hardcore groove and slam that always brings the song it always brings the song back into coherence. Sometimes a lot of the technical bands, it just passes me by in a blur. And as much as you're impressed with how well they can play, there's not something that kind of pulls me back to wanting to hear that music. Whereas this, totally different. There's always something about a Dying Fetus record or Dying Fetus song that's going to drag you back in, whether it's a groove or whether it's a breakdown, whether it's a particular hook that they threw in. But those hardcore sensibilities that they've brought into their music, I think they deploy far better and far more effectively than the vast majority of other bands that do it, if not anyone. I mean, I would actually argue, I would say there's a case to be made to say they are better than anybody at doing that. And so from my perspective, it is top notch without question. All right, let's jump into some questions. So the first one that I've got is from Grind Your Mind 77. Good morning, Jackie. Hope all is well. Following on from the last question about an impeccable run from a band, which band do you think released the best final album of their career before they split up for whatever reason, be it death, irreconcilable differences, etc.? It doesn't have to be their best release, just who went out with a banger. For example, Type O, a banger, Slayer, a shot. Also, tell Drugoth he needs to work harder. 20 bands is not enough. So, before we answer the question, let's talk about your 20 bands, because we've got Drugoth coming out. You've got multiple projects now with Carl. At my count, it was 3.
With Carl, yeah. We've got Antichrist Blood Scourge. We've got Black Flame Altar, and we have a new one on the way, with Carl, myself, and Michael Hill.
Michael DC Hill.
Yes, the man himself. Yeah, that one's still in the works. I believe we're working on just I should let them talk about it more than me. I'm just a simple old drummer, but it is in the works. We're working on a demo. It's a lot of fun. I'm very, very grateful to be working with 2 amazing musicians and fine gentlemen. I have annoyed the absolute shit out of them in the process, but I think Carl's used to how I work, and Mike is becoming used to how I work. But yeah, that one's going to be really fun. So yeah, those there's a Black Flame. A Antichrist Blood Scourge EP on the way as well. Once again, I'll let Carl sort of be the one to reveal that when the time comes. But yeah, I've got a few things going on.
Well, I'm going through your profile on Metal Archives, and I mean it's a lengthy list. You've got Antichrist, Blood Scourge, you've got Black Flame Altar, Christbane, Death Horde, Drugoth, of course, Helnium, Lyr, Nocturnal Effigy, Rokung, Shograth, Siege Tower, Sight Blinder, and then Spells of Torment and Unblooded. So
I think that might be all. Yeah, that sounds about right.
it's all for now.
Metal Archives, I can't edit. I don't know. That website is a fucking nightmare. But I am on it pretty much every day, just reading lyrics and stuff like that. So it's a gift and a curse. But
yeah,
I got a few things going on. It's fun. I keep busy.
Well, at this point, you don't have to practice drums. You just, for you, like drum practice is just playing, recording for another one of your bands.
Yeah, kind of. I do both. I don't get to the studio as much as I would like to. I maybe once every fortnight I get to go to the studio, and that's about it. When I was younger, I would play drums every day, but it's fun. I just do it when I get the chance. And one that isn't on that list, and it will be soon, hopefully soon, is a project I'm doing with Nathan, which I don't know if he's probably spoken to you about it, but yeah, it's not small. It's pretty fucking heavy, and I'm really excited for that one. But these things take time. But when the time comes, yeah, a lot of people's skulls will be crushed.
Badass. Well, Nathan will be on here again, and I haven't even asked him yet, but I'll implore the young man. He'll be on here for the top 30 of 2025 countdown, as is tradition now. So he'll do part 1 with me next year. Undoubtedly, we'll be talking about that project as well, since we'll probably be further down the road by the sounds of what you're saying. All right, but let's get to this question by our friend Grind Your Mind 77. So a band that went out on a high. So they for whatever reason they broke up, but their last album was an absolute banger. I've got one I can table right off the bat, and that is Monotheist by Celtic Frost. And as much as you can make the argument that Triptychon is, effectively just a follow-on to the direction that Tom went with Monotheist. Monotheist is technically the final Celtic Frost album, and it is a fucking absolute masterpiece. I would go as far as to say, with the exception perhaps of To Make a Therion, I would say it's probably the best thing that Celtic Frost ever did. It is a dark, brooding, atmospheric, punishing record, and it is just filled from pillar to post with absolute bangers.
That's a really hard question. Like, I've been like sort of going over it in my mind, and that's a really, really hard question. I can only think of like one off the top of my head, like band that is no longer a band.
Yeah.
And it is a band, I think they were from somewhere in the US. I don't know. My geographic location of that place is unavailable. They are called Atrament. They are, imagine like Discharge or Wolf Brigade, but with a very murky, disgusting black metal mindset as well. They released 2 albums. One The first album was called Eternal Downfall. The second one was Scum Sect. And then they were like, fuck this, we quit. That's it. End of story. But those two albums I still listen to today. They are fantastic. Scum Sect came out in 2018. And yeah, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone else in that falls under that question apart from them. There's a lot of like shit local hardcore bands I can think of, and some Australian black metal bands that I wish continued but didn't. But you know, apart from that, I can't. That's a very, very difficult question. Grind Your Mind seems to have a lot of those real brain scratches.
I've got two more that I can put down as well. Now, technically speaking, these two bands are not broken up, but I doubt very much that we're going to see more music from them. Firstly, there's Neurosis, Fires Within Fires. Arguably, that will be the final Neurosis album. I fucking love this band, as I've said many, many times before, and I know that that sentiment is shared by several members of the Legion. I am also a fan of a later stage or late career Neurosis, which doesn't seem to be as popular. My personal view is I think Honor Found in Decay is just as strong as Through Silver and Blood and A Sun That Never Sets. I think Fires Within Fires doesn't top Honor Found in Decay, but it's certainly not a bad way to wrap up a incredible legacy of great material. And then Red Harvest, though they are now technically listed as active on Metal Archives, again, based on the fact that their last album was 2007, and there is no update, I think no update past 2018 on their social media. I think it's safe to say we're never going to hear from them ever again. Red Harvest, A Greater Darkness, absolutely fucking phenomenal. Masterpiece record from a band that is criminally underrated, in my opinion. And then the final one that I'll offer, and again, these are what's coming, or coming straight to mind, Alchemist, an Australian gem that should have been, if there were any justice in the world, they would have been as big as a Megadeth or a Slayer. They certainly had the potential to be. Anyone who saw them live will agree with that. I remember seeing them live, as I've related to on this podcast before, and just thinking, how are they in a club this small? This is a band that has the sound and the capability to be filling out stadiums. But Tripsis was their last album. That also came out in 2007, and it was fucking magnificent. Absolutely. I mean, genuinely magnificent.
Yeah. I never really went down that rabbit hole. I should revisit them and give it a whirl.
Well, Alchemist, if you're new to them, I would say the best place to start are their last three records. So Organism, that came out in 2000. Austral Alien, which is what introduced me to them, and that was, I remember very specifically, there was a campaign that Relapse had where it was about 4 or 5 records that they put out at the same time, and all of those records were great. It was, off the top of my head, it was Austral Alien. I think it was Pig Destroyer, Burnt by the Sun, and I can't remember the others. But those were those records that they put out as part of that kind of release cycle were all fucking incredible. And I mean, Alchemist, the best thing about them was how brilliantly they mixed in. I don't know whether you would call it an Australian sound, but there was definitely an Australian attitude to their music. They were so unique sounding, and yet at the same time, it was just music that sort of wrapped you like a comfort blanket if you were into heavy music. And I think again, they were a band that could quite easily lend themselves to, more or less anyone who's into any style of music. If you were into death metal, there was something in there for you. If you were into black metal, I would argue there was something there for you. If you were into fucking thrash, or you were into just like normal bullshit metal, or proggy stuff, there was something in there for you. They were a phenomenal band. And as I close in on episode 300, the one thing that I'll say, if I had to list the top 10 things I'm the most proud of on this podcast, being the man to do the final interview with Adam Agius about Alchemist, definitely. I felt like no one was giving them the flowers they deserved. And I'm very happy that I got the opportunity to have that conversation with him, and at least in a small way, put a bow on the Alchemist career and legacy.
I also want to mention, and once again, it's on Metal Archives. It says that they are still active, but Black Witchery. They haven't released the full length since 2010. They are, a war metal or bestial black metal band, so they forever just re-release demos and do splits with old songs. But yeah, I don't know what's going on in that camp, but I would be unbelievably horny if they were to release a new album, because I'm a huge fan.
Just talking, by the way, about bands that quit. Let's talk about a band that has just announced that they're going to be quitting.
Oh, yes.
Did you read about Watain saying that their next album will be their last, and they've even put a date, which I believe is the 10th of September 2028. That's the date that they, according to them, according to the posts that they've put out now, that is the date where they are done.
Yeah, I saw that actually very early this morning when I woke up, and all of the Watain Disciple pages that I follow as well, they were all posting about it as well. I immediate thought, I'm very disappointed and upset, because I'm a very big Watain fan. But in their paragraphs describing why they're calling it quits, they explain it very well. Go out on top. You don't want to fizzle out. Being old and decrepit. And I think it's now that I've let it sort of sink in throughout the day. I think it's kind of a cool way to go out on your own terms, saying, and as well, it's not like, yep, that's it, we're done, see ya. It's like, we've got 3 years. We're going to write and record one final album, and then no doubt they'll probably do a farewell tour or something. But I think it's handled the best way they could, instead of just pulling the pin right now.
I think that it's something I've thought about a lot recently. Funnily enough, and I think it's in light of the fact that we've seen so many people passing away, and equally, you see more and more of the old guard on stage performing at a level that is, for obvious reasons, and I'm not hating on anybody here, but for obvious reasons, it's a step or two away from being their absolute best and being at their absolute peak. And I have thought whether or not it's best to wrap things up and have people remember you in a certain way, like have your legacy never be tarnished by being forced to be a version of you that you're not completely comfortable with. And so from that respect, I have to really give them credit, because I think it's brave to do that, especially with a band as big as Watain. They're clearly not in it, or not in this for the money. I would argue they're not even really in it for the fame. They're just in it to express their art, and they have clearly a very defined idea of how they want to be remembered, and they feel like now this is the best time to draw a line under that chapter. I'm sure they won't struggle to find other projects or other things to keep them busy with musically, but they have a very specific way in which they want Watain remembered. And I think it's a brave thing to do, quite honestly. I really respect them for that.
You weren't really a fan of the Agony and Ecstasy of Watain, their last album, were you? I remember you saying...
No, actually, I did quite like it. Remember, I was pretty lukewarm on Watain, and then when the singles started getting announced, there was a moment, and I think the song was Ceremosa.
Yeah.
Where I actually it was one of those real sort of eye-opening moments on the news rant where I listened to the song and I was like, "Fucking hell, this is really excellent." So I would put Watain in my list of favorite black metal bands, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But I definitely am a lot warmer to them now than I was, and the agony and ecstasy of Watain I think is good. And I definitely understand why people love them as much as they do. That's there's no question about it. They are, in terms of the trade that they ply, they're masters at it.
Have you ever had the experience of seeing them live?
I have not, and I have had our friend Cheyenne implore me to do so, along with many other people.
I highly recommend it. They are an outstanding band on record, but they are one of those bands where it's an experience. You need to see it live. They encompass every sense. Like they fucking stink. The air itself it's like you're literally in hell. Like they cover themselves in blood of what I hope is animals, but there's candles, there's incense. It is just an assault of the senses, and it's fantastic. They are, to me, if someone was to say what is black metal, I would say go to that everything Watain is and represents in a modern day is black metal. I think they hit the nail on the head. Everything they represent, everything they stand for, there's no compromise. You know what I mean? I don't know. They're just, to me, they are black metal incarnate.
Well, I will definitely try and catch them, especially if this is going to be the last opportunity that I get on this next run. But yeah, like I said, hails to them for making the decision that they've made. I think it's bold, and I like it. I like people that dance to the beat of their own drum. So okay, let's get on with some more music. Inhuman Condition have shared a new track. You and I enjoyed a Inhuman Condition song together on a News Rant episode a couple of months ago. It says here, Inhuman Condition, the death metal trio featuring current and former members of Overkill, Deicide, Obituary, Death, and Massacre, have unveiled their latest single, Burial State, which will be featured on the October edition of Decibel Magazine's Decibel Flexi series. Produced by future ex-Deicide guitarist Taylor Nordberg and Jeremy Kling, the track follows the band's June release of their full-length album, Mind Trap. And I jokingly said future ex-guitarist because we know Deicide goes through guitarists like Bonnie Blue goes through lovers. But anyway, let's hear what Burial State sounds like.
It is finest form.
going to pause since we're just past the halfway point of the song. Your thoughts?
That was pretty cool. I'm all for it. The solo was sick. Huge dive bomb. I'm all for it. Not once again, but I'm liking. I feel like this is one of those bands as well where they're clearly a death metal band, but they would be easily accepted by the hardcore community. Like they've got that beatdown section that we just paused on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm all for it. Like, bring back the crossover shit. I'm all for it. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, look, it's not the most original music I've ever heard. It does sound pretty derivative, especially that main riff. But when the song gets going, it's just been a consistent theme with everything that I've heard by this band, especially recent material. There's just something about it that is incredibly charming. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, you just can't help but enjoy it. It's like watching a movie that you've seen similar plots to, elsewhere on many occasions, but for whatever reason, the way the director has set it up, the way that it's been delivered is, the way that it's acted is just makes it enjoyable. And I would say Inhuman Condition is the same. I mean, you've heard this by several other bands, including the bands these guys are from, many, many times before. But for whatever reason, there's just something about it that is super enjoyable.
Inhuman Condition is a Jason Statham movie. You know what you're in for. The storyline doesn't mean shit. He's just gonna do some sick fight scenes and then live happily ever after. That's what you're in. Like you said, they're not reinventing the wheel, but they're doing what they're doing very, very well. And I doubt people would of our community would listen to this and think, oh, that's shit. You know what I mean? Like no one would think this is shit. It's got everything that everyone wants. Yes, it's a bit mediocre, but I'm all for it. I don't want a fucking saxophone solo or something stupid to try to make it different. Like I'm happy with this. This gets a one single thumb up, not thumbs, just the one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It would get a cautious thumbs up from me. But I completely agree with your assessment there. Now, it's probably a good time for us to check in on Taylor Nordberg's other band, a little-known act called Deicide. And Deicide have announced that they have got their new guitarist confirmed, and this happened, of course, after Kevin, I think his surname is pronounced Quirion. He departed, making that 7 ex-guitarists that the band now has in their lineup. Of course, unfortunately, I think Ralph Santola, if memory serves me correctly, he departed the band before he passed away. But anyway, so their new guitarist is Jadran Conan Gonzalez. He played or currently plays with Angel Fury, Bonded by Blood, Ex Mortis, and then previously he was in Warbringer as a live guitarist, and he was also in a band called Rattlehead. There is footage now of them performing live in Curitiba, Brazil, on the opening leg of the Behemoth tour, where, by the way, they're an opening act. I don't know how I feel about that. I understand the economics about it, but Deicide opening for Behemoth, I don't know. It feels wrong to me.
I understand what you're saying, but like you said, as the economics of it, there's going to be more 16-year-old girls wanting to see Behemoth.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
Yeah, but on the bright side, maybe they arrive early to get front row, and then they get a very, very upset and borderline senile Glenn Benton yelling all sorts of profanities directly at them. So really, it's an educational purpose for the youth there to see Behemoth. But that being said, I'm a fan of Behemoth as well, so I would be psyched to see Deicide and Behemoth in the one night. That'd be great.
Well, we have an opportunity here to see some mobile phone recorded footage of Deicide performing in Hell I Burn and get a first taste of what they're like with their new guitarist. Of course, Taylor Nordberg is still in the band, and he really is a guitarist. I hope they don't lose, because as you pointed out with that Inhuman Condition song, he's technically fucking excellent. He's got a great feel when he plays, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but if you watch the performance of In Hell I Burn at Watain, I think it was 2024, there's a video of that doing the rounds on YouTube. I mean, they were fucking superb. Absolutely. And for a band that's been around this long to do a song, and I mean, I watched that whole set where they seem just really invigorated and on fire. I mean, that is something I'm 100% down for. So let's give this rendition of In Hell I Burn a quick look and see whether we can make an early assessment as to how long we think this new guitarist is going to stay in the band for. Even though the quality of that is shit, it sounds fucking absolutely badass. One of the best things I think that Deicide ever did, by the way, was to reintroduce the backing vocals. I know for a period of time they were doing shows where I mean, probably because of the, I don't know whether Jack Owen had the ability to do those kinds of backing vocals, but for whatever reason they weren't doing it, and it just sounded wrong. When they got backing vocals for some of these songs where it was recorded with Glenn doing the double tracking, it just sounds so fucking powerful on stage. And I mean, again, as I said, even though the sound quality of that isn't great, they don't look like a band that's been doing this for 40 years and are just going through the motions. There's a real intensity to to that performance.
Yeah, I agree. Even Glenn seems revitalized. Like he's had a Powerade or two before the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. 100%.
He's on the creatine. Yeah, but I agree. Backing vocals in death metal is hard as fuck. I love that shit.
I think Taylor Nordberg has got that sort of low rasp that he brings into it, and I think that complements Glenn's voice incredibly well. But especially when you've recorded songs that have that have those double tracking vocals, you can't perform without them. It just sounds wrong. Something sounds missing. Like when I go to a live show, I want to hear more. I don't want to hear less. Like, there's nothing cooler to me, and you get this a lot with hardcore. There's nothing cooler to me than like a surprise vocalist turning up on stage and doing a song with a band. I don't know whether you saw that. This is an old clip, I think probably from 2007, maybe. There's an old clip where Scott from Terror shows up on stage with Biohazard, and they do Hold My Own, and it is just complete fucking anarchy on stage. That's the kind of thing that I want to see when I go watch a live show.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I love that shit. Another good one that is a little bit in the world of hardcore, but a little bit different. The band Ceremony are joined. I don't know where it was, but they're joined on stage by Davey Havoc of AFI and the likes, and they do a Straight Edge Revenge cover, and you do, the stage just becomes a riot. And yeah, it's one of those goosebump moments. It's fantastic.
All right, my friend, since we're talking about live shows, it's probably a nice segue into my swirly of the week.
No. Oh, you like
So the Metal Threat Dream is, I wouldn't say it's completely dead, but it is on serious life support. I don't know how closely you've been following this, but I mean, just in case anybody hasn't, and this is the first time they're listening to the news rant because I've spoken about it many times. Metal Threat announced, I think last year, incredible lineup that included many bands on the naughty list. And these bands on the naughty list, there was always a degree of skepticism as to whether it would actually happen. So, you know, I think for a period of time, people were thinking that the show might not happen altogether, that it would be boycotted out of existence. You know, I feel like the tide has turned on that a little bit. You know, so even though there's people on Is It Sketch sobbing themselves to sleep about it, you know, the show is definitely going ahead. But what has now happened is that a huge number of these bands that were previously announced are off the bill, and the reasons given are that their visas are being declined. So thus far, the victims of this blanket visa denial campaign include Satanic Warmaster, Sargeist, Horner, Sinister, Hecate Enthroned, I believe, announced that they won't be joining or that they won't be on the show. Disaster have pulled out, but they have not pulled out because of visas. They've pulled out for health reasons. I believe their vocalist is unwell at the moment. Destroyer 666, they've had their visas declined. So a lot of the bigger bands, the bands that were the most anticipated, certainly on this bill, have now pulled out. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a good lineup left, but I guess this isn't a swirly that's going to be dedicated to just one particular person or one particular entity. I feel like we're going to have to stick a bunch of heads down the toilet to get answers as to what's going on here. And I think the reason why I say that is, number one, this can't just be a visa thing, because there are a number of European bands that will be there who haven't pulled off the bill yet, who clearly have had no issues getting in. They include Unleashed, Adorior. I'm just looking off the top of my head who we know for sure is going to be there. Who else? There's a couple anyway. We also had Milwaukee Metal Fest, where you had Enslaved, you had Paradise Lost, you had Rotting Christ. No issues with visas. Horner mentioned something interesting in their post about this, where they said that their approved papers hadn't arrived in time for them to be able to do their visa application. And so, again, I don't want to throw shade at the Metal Threat bookers, because I'm sure that they're doing their best to make this happen. But they definitely, it doesn't seem to me like it's a clear-cut case of, you know, one particular group is to blame, or, you know, people will be very quick to try and turn this into something political. I don't even know if it's that. But have you been following this saga?
No, I haven't. This is the first I've heard. I've heard you talk about this lineup several times in previous news rants, and this is kind of the first time I'm actually like looking at it. I've glanced at it, I think, on Instagram quickly, but that lineup looks fucking sick. Was Diocletian were their visas turned away, or are they all good?
Well, as far as I know, they're on there. I might be wrong. Things also seem to change on a daily basis, but I don't think anything has been announced yet to suggest that they're not going to be on the that they're not going to be there. But yeah, like I said, the main ones that I picked out there, Destroyer 666, they're definitely not going. They definitely won't be performing. They were due to headline the metal stage on Saturday. And by the way, that's Saturday, the 4th of October. Sinister, they were due to headline the Threat stage on Sunday, October the 5th. They won't be there anymore. And again, I think the bigger ones were Satanic Warmaster, Horner, Sargeist. I know certainly Hecate Enthroned were themselves very excited about being there. But yeah, I mean, again, I think what remains on the list is still pretty cool. I mean, Hordem Rife are going to be playing. Eccles are there. I mean, they're worth the fucking ticket price as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Inquisition.
Inquisition are going to be on. So there's Inferno are playing. So there's still a bunch of fucking cool bands. And again, to their credit, I think Metal Threat have tried to be as transparent about things as possible. They've said, or their most recent update on Facebook is Metal Threat updates coming on Monday. It's fucked, but it's not cancelled. There will be sweet little treats that I hope will save the day with these updates on Monday. Still, though, I mean, what would be, based on the information we've got, what would be your assessment of what's going on here?
I reckon some blue and or green haired them has sent a very aggressive email in bold font to whomever to try to get these people banned from the country, and that's my best guess. And no doubt they're trying to do everything in their fat abilities to have Inquisition. Who else we got? Diocletian, Disma. There's a couple in there that fall under the naughty category, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like you said, even the lineup that's still going ahead, I would definitely go to that. That's a fucking sweet lineup.
Mm. I thought about it, being activist related, and I'm not sure if I'm not sure if that makes sense to me. But what potentially does make sense is that ultimately these decisions, any government bureaucracy, does very often come down to the person that is assessing your case. And I know that going through an application to get a visa to go to the US is really hard. It's very costly for these bands. So I know and understand all of those things, but at the end of the day, the application lands on somebody's desk, and it would not surprise me if that somebody went online, had a look at the bands, and just decided absolutely not. And that was probably spawned by personal ideology, because there's definitely a connection between the bands that have been declined visas. I mean, Satanic Warmaster, Destroyer 666, Horner, Sargeist, top of the naughty list. I don't know whether the person working in government is a card-carrying member of Is It Sketch, but there's, if I had to look for coincidences, if I were to be a detective and I look for coincidences, it strikes me as a very, it can't be a coincidence that it is those particular bands that are not playing anymore.
Yeah, I really don't know. So more importantly, who is the victim of the swirly? Is it
I'm thinking that we're going to have to line up a couple of people, and they're going to have to get dunked until we get some fucking answers. All
right. How about a urinal wall baptism? We'll just their friends, their families, everybody is getting dunked. Everybody's being made to eat those little, like, pink soap bricks until we get some fucking answers.
I think that's the only way to deal with this, quite frankly. Seems to me to be the only
swirly.
That's the only reasonable way for us to get to the bottom of what's going on.
A urinal wall baptism.
And that, my friends, is the swirly of the week. All right. We need to check out some more music. Tombs deliver a new single. We just spoke about Michael D.C. Hill a second ago. Look, I've had a couple of the Tombs singles on the News Rant. Absolutely no question in my mind. This is one of the best Tombs album, if not the best Tombs album ever put out. People will find out whether I'm right or wrong on October the 17th when it gets put out by Redefining Darkness Records. But I really, really think that Mike and the band have excelled themselves. And I will have Mike on the podcast in probably the next couple of weeks to talk about the record in more detail. Your early impressions of what the Tombs material sounds like. Also, I guess another question, has Mike sent you the whole thing?
Yes, he sent me the full album, but I have refused respectfully of course. I've respectfully refused to listen to it because, and I explained this to him quite vividly, I really enjoy the anticipation. I'm edging myself for the album. I've listened to the singles many a time. Yeah, they're great. I've listened to this song half a dozen times as well, and it's this one, I think, to me is the it's the most how do I say it? It's the most I don't want to say the most black metal of the three singles, but it's the most bread and butter black metal, like blast beats, very dark and evil, aggressive vocals. But yeah, sorry to spoil it for everybody who hasn't listened to it, but this one is more bread and butter black metal, and I'm all for it. I'm very, very much looking forward to this album, and like probably a lot of us, it's going to feature very, very high on the album of the year countdown episodes that we all do.
Yeah, agree. I would for sure say people are going to listen to the three singles that have been put out so far, and they're going to say Feral Darkness, The Sun Sets, and Last Days all sound very different from each other. Is this a schizophrenic sounding record? And I would say it's actually an album that's got a really natural flow to it. It just so happens that a lot of the songs sound quite distinct and unique from each other, which I'm a massive fan of. I don't like bands that put out records that just have basically one blur of a song that runs from start to finish. This is a very carefully crafted record. It's a very it's a high definition album in the sense that again, you can pick out distinct tracks from each other, and a lot of if not all of the tracks are memorable. But as I alluded to as well, I've heard this track many, many times. But for those that haven't, here's a little taste. It's got a real apocalyptic feel to it, the song. It in keeping with the song title, Last Days, I mean, it genuinely sounds like you would imagine the end of the world would feel like. I just fucking love it. I really do. I think this album is, the more I hear these singles, the more I go back and listen to the record, it's the definitive Tombs album, in that it blends together every single great thing that Mike has done with this band. Over there, I mean, how long have they been going now? 15-year plus career. But it blends it together seamlessly. And actually, the other thing I should highlight that I really like about this too is the production. I think this is the best production. The production most suited to Tombs that they've ever had.
I agree. The production is fantastic. In this song, as the example, the guitar tone is spot on. The bass cuts through perfectly. I'm a very big fan, especially in everything, but black metal especially. I love it when the bass cuts through and is such a prominent aspect of the band and the albums and the songs. Mike's vocals are fantastic. They vary, from the previous singles that we've heard from this album. His vocal range is phenomenal. But that being said, it's the vocals are Mike Hill. Like, if you had that on any other song, if he was doing guest vocals on another band or something, you would immediately know, oh, yeah, that's Mike. You know what I mean? The drums, the sound of the drums on this song as well, they're very organic. Like, there's very little triggering behind it and studio trickery, which I really like. Like, in the drum fills, you can really hear the volume accent and like the crescendo of the drum fills. I think it's I'm very much looking forward to this album and hearing it. I feel like it's, like you said, all the singles are very different from each other, but it all makes sense in the long run, and I'm very much looking forward to the long run.
Yeah, 100% agree. All right, let's get on with some, rating for this, top notch, no question about it. And I just want to stress this because this is going to come up unquestionably in the top 30 of 2025. I am much harsher on my friends' music than I am on other bands. And the reason for that, and I have to check myself on it a lot to go, am I being unfair here? The reason is I never wanted to come across as though I'm liking somebody's music just because I like the person. As I've said before, the reason why, the way many of these friendships got started, whether it's Mike, whether it's you, whether it's Cheyenne, whether it's Matt and the Werewolves gang, it's because I liked the music first and foremost, reached out to all of you guys, struck up a conversation, and from there a friendship grew, but it grew separate to my enjoyment of the music. Now, again, as a result, when somebody sends me stuff, I tend to be a little bit harsher on it because I don't want to be seen to be playing favorites, but I'm just very fortunate that I have a lot of friends who are exceptionally musically gifted. So when that top 30 list drops, there will probably be quite a few bands that are going to be featured on there that contain members that I know quite well and, potentially even refer to as friends. But trust me when I say they would not be there for any other reason than I fucking love what they do and admire them. I enjoy them and appreciate them as friends, but I admire them as musicians and artists as well.
I agree.
So, all right. You're going to say, sorry?
I would say this song from me, and once again, like you were saying, not being biased, I would give it a thumbs up. I'm a fan of it. I actually prefer the first two singles more to this song, hence it getting just a thumbs up.
That's fair. That's fair.
Respectfully, of course.
Yeah. Okay, let's answer a couple of quick questions before we start rounding the bend of wrapping this one up. Blast That Beat has asked, what's a song so fucking heavy that you want to punch holes in the wall?
Where do I start?
Well, it's always like the litmus test for me is always what comes to mind first.
Okay. Crowbar, All I Had I Gave. That outro beatdown, I will kill everyone.
I think that's
Terror.
yeah.
Terror, spit my rage. I will not only spit my rage, but I will make you be spitting teeth. One more from me, and I just want to make sure I get the name correct. Hatebreed, Rise of Brutality. Actually, no, I changed my mind. Hatebreed, The Rise of Brutality in its entirety. It's not a song, the whole album. I know you're not a fan of moshing, but I will use my beloved wife as a baseball bat and wrap her around everybody's heads.
So you see, when it comes to Hatebreed, and this is a just an aside, I think the heaviest thing that they've ever done, song wise, without a shadow of a doubt, is the track "Smash Your Enemies."
Oh,
Whether on the first EP or on Perseverance, the part where Jamie goes, "When I wake up, the real nightmare begins," everything from there on out is a call to bloodshed. It is just fucking some of the most intense and aggressive shit on the face of the earth.
the song on Rise of Brutality, Facing What Consumes You. Holy fucking shit. Yeah, like I said, and I stand by it, I would kill everyone. I don't know. I'd come out of Mosh retirement for that shit.
Yeah, there's a so I'll base this on what would bring me out of Mosh retirement. I've mentioned this song many times before, but Retina by Despised Icon of their album The Healing Process. The last part of that song with the gang vocals is live. It hits harder than fucking anything on the face of the planet. It sounds and looks great with the two dudes on stage doing vocals, and it's just heavy as fucking absolute balls. Next up on my list would be Suffocation. And I just want to make sure I get the song right. So off Pierced From Within, I know it's not a J-Dog approved album, but I think it is Suspended in Tribulation. Is it Suspended in Tribulation or Depths of Depravity? It's Depths of Depravity. The part where Frank goes, "Human life means little, little to me." Genius, absolute fucking genius. You have to toss a Crowbar song in there. I think I would go for Crowbar. I mean, there's so many things you can go with, but I would go for Like Broken Glass just because that was the first Crowbar song I ever heard, and it was like, I mean, that riff is just chunky and fucking absolutely savage. And then, just as a side note, my own choice when it comes to Terror, fuck that to me is difficult.
You're right, man. Overcome. To Hell and Back. I came out of Mosh retirement when they dropped that song.
I've got one. Live by the Code.
Ooh, more modern Terror.
Yeah. I would go to Live by the Code. Well, dude, I mean, some of the Terror tracks off the last two albums are just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. The song, the song is The 25th Hour, the opening track off The 25th Hour. Yeah. Just fucking absolute genius. I mean, I don't know whether I would regard that as heavy as much as just savagely aggressive.
Even One with the Underdogs.
Yeah.
I don't
Great
know.
choice as well.
Terror and there's not a bad Terror album. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, we've got another one for you. Kelu666 has asked, for Drugoth, what are your unpopular metal takes?
I need a few more of an explanation of that question.
Well, I think it is opinions you hold relative to specific bands or specific albums that are not necessarily broadly They're not considered to be it goes in opposition to what is kind of considered to be conventional opinions,
Okay.
conventional wisdom.
All right. So this might hurt a lot of people's feelings, but I am not really a fan of Venom. I'm sorry. They don't really do anything for me. I listened to Venom Inc. I think it was like that newer stuff, and like that wasn't too bad, but it was nothing that I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that was. I listened to one or two songs, and that was about it. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't do anything for me. And I know that they are the godfathers, if not the creators of black metal, but yeah, sorry, not for me. I believe that, and the old saying, Venom created black metal, Bathory perfected black metal. I'm on the Bathory train 100%. So there you go. Sorry, I hate Venom. I don't hate Venom. I have no thoughts, no care for Venom.
Yeah, that's a complex take, and I'm going to explain why. I don't think Venom is anywhere near as consistent as people make them out to be. Like when you listen to the album Black Metal, there's a lot of fucking bullshit on that album. I would argue. So going down the track listing from top to bottom, To Hell and Back, not a particularly great song. Teacher's Pet, fucking absolutely awful. Leave Me in Hell, I don't really like. You've got songs like Countess Bathory, Buried Alive, Raise the Dead. Those are all cool, but there's a lot of fucking filler crap on that album. For me, the very best Venom song ever, if they had put out an entire album of songs that was at that level, then I would say that you can speak about them in the same breath as you speak about Bathory when it comes to just pure quality, and that's the Seven Gates of Hell. But they didn't. They never did. They've always been a band that's been a bit all over the place, and when they're on, they're absolutely on fire, but they're very often off. They do not have a record like the first Bathory album where every fucking song on that record from start to finish is brilliant. So that would be my take on it. Like I'm not entirely in your camp, but I definitely see where you're coming from, and I definitely think that people regard Venom maybe more highly than the overall quality of their discography suggests that they should.
Yeah, and it's a personal preference. Like I respect them, obviously, and people that do like them, good on you. Me personally, not for me. But yeah, like you said, and that comparison, the Bathory self-titled album, front to back, flawless. For me,
Yeah.
The first 4 Bathory albums, flawless, front to back. Not one song on that would I want to skip. I love it all. Everything after that, not for me. With Bathory, but that's a whole other question. But yeah, sorry, Venom, not my cup of tea.
What's your favorite Bathory track off the first album? As we're talking about that.
Probably. Maybe I'm biased because I also really like the rendition that Shooter do of it. But Necromancy.
Yeah, for me it's
it's a go-to song, but it's a fucking song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My go-to song on that first album is unquestionably Raise the Dead. When that song starts and you hear the dust, it's just like that. You talk about a song that makes me want to punch holes through walls. That song does.
Actually, no, I changed my mind. In Conspiracy with Satan. Although Was it you that said that you're not really a fan of that song?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay. Someone I was talking to recently must have said that song, was the one that they weren't really drawn to on the album. But
No.
huge fan.
There's no song that I'm not drawn
Ah,
to on the first Bat 3 album.
man.
um,
Armageddon. Fuck. That's
yeah.
like trying to pick a favorite child.
Sacrifice. I mean, what a fucking track.
Reaper.
Yeah.
God damn. That's one of my go-to. Every time I do a leg lock instructional on my MMA Instagram page for my gym that I run. Every time I'm doing a reaping leg lock, I have to have Reaper in the background. But that's just a little inside pun for myself.
One more question. Metal Sheck has asked, if you have to curate a set list for a Paradise Lost gig, what would it include? I don't know how big of a Paradise Lost fan you are, but obviously I am an enormous fan. I did laugh when Mike mentioned on the Necromaniacs podcast that, from the week just been, that you could hear that I was excited about speaking to Nick Holmes. I mean, dude, it was beyond excitement. Like the 14-year-old in me was doing fucking cartwheels down the street. It was this conversation I'm having, and I'm like, if you understand like how big of a role Paradise Lost has played in my life, generally speaking, from the moment that I first heard them, and to sit here talking to the man who sang all those songs, it's just, to me, it's fucking mind blowing. I often think about that when I do this podcast. When I was sitting in front of Gall drinking wine, I was having lunch with Swatalv. Yesterday, I was recording the first part of that Vincent Crowley interview, and I'm like, I'm sitting here talking to Vincent like we're mates. And if I were to meet him, I'm pretty sure we would converse and speak as though we were friends. Swatalv is a very good friend. I'm like, if somebody had grabbed me by the shoulder when I was 15 years old and said, like, when you're 45, you're going to consider, you're going to be friends with these people. You're going to be doing all the shit. You're going to be sitting drinking wine with Gall from Gorgoroth. I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought you're out of your fucking mind. But as far as Paradise Lost tracks that should be included on a set list are concerned, I mentioned this to Nick, Your Hand in Mine. I don't know why they don't do that song live. It is fucking incredible. You must have on any Paradise Lost set, it must include Gothic and Eternal. To not include them, I think I would, if I became Prime Minister of the UK, I would declare it a crime. So too, not playing or not including Dying Freedom, that must be on the list as well. Pray Nightfall off of Symbol of Life, I should say, is a song that I have seen them play live once. Once again, at a loss as to why it's not included more regularly, because it is fucking fantastic. Another one that is fantastic that also should be included a lot more frequently is off the album In Requiem, and the song is called Your Own Reality. That to me is just the perfect set closer. Once again, not sure why it doesn't get included. And then the new album Ascension that came out on Friday is top to bottom brilliant. I don't think I don't expect to see it included on their sets, but this their first foray into an acoustic ballad, Lay a Wreath Upon the World. If I were them, that would be on every single fucking show that I do going forward. It is just exceptional. I'm going to assume you are not a Paradise Lost fan.
I wouldn't say that I'm not a fan. I just have they've been on my radar. I've just never listened to them.
Yeah.
The song that you played a couple of weeks ago when you had Carl on, I was quite enjoying that, and that's off the new album, I'm assuming. So
Correct,
I'll have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and give it a listen. I think look, again, I understand it's not going to be for everybody. I mean, they are a popular band, but they're not necessarily a band that depending on how grim your tastes go, I get that they might not be for everyone. But as I said, to me, argument to say they're my favorite band If they're not my favorite band, they're my number 2 band. I think it tends to alternate between Akakaka and Paradise Lost. And they were just, I mean, certainly in terms of influence on my taste in music and how I view music generally, one of the most influential without question. And it turns out that the guys in the band are all fucking awesome. Greg is brilliant. Aaron is, he's just a killer dude. I've had him on the show twice. And I was very, very happy with how that Nick Holmes conversation turned out. It seems like everybody enjoyed it as well. Okay, let's do one more song as we wrap up. Now, we're going to move away from Metal Storm because I've noticed they've not shared this. I happened to spot it on YouTube yesterday, and I'm a fucking enormous fan of this band. The band is Suffering Hour. They've put out a new single called, not nude single, a new single called Revelation of Mortality. And it is taken from an upcoming EP they're putting out called Impelling Rebirth. Going to be released on October the 3rd on limited edition 10-inch vinyl and digital. It is 5 savage and unrelenting tracks spanning 15 minutes being put out on Profound Law Records. Are you a fan of Suffering Hour? Do you know who they are?
I've never heard of them, but I'm a big fan of Profound Law Records. Everything they seem to shit out is top notch. So I will be, as we play this song, I will be looking them up and adding them to the to check out list.
I have a strong hunch you are going to thoroughly enjoy this. You must, and for anybody who hasn't paid any attention to Suffering Hour, you must check out their 2021 album, The Cyclic Reckoning. That also came out on Profound Law Records. I cannot quite remember how high up on my list it was in the year that we did because that was when I was still doing top 20s. It was certainly on the top 20. I know that for sure. But fucking phenomenal album. And when I saw they put out some new music, I was super excited. So let's hear what Revelation of Mortality sounds like. Thoughts?
That was very, very good. that was interesting. Very interesting. Like, it was what I expected from the beginning, just relentless and, punishing. But then where we paused it there, where it slows down, and like it had that sort of mid-tempo stomp part, which was cool. But this next part that we're up to really has me intrigued to hear where it goes. You know what I mean? Like the ebb and flow of this song alone is very interesting. The guy sounds like he's singing through a fucking drain pipe. which is brutal. I'm all for it. Production is fantastic. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. No, this to me, unquestionably a top notch. Same as their previous album. So fucking excited that they're putting out something new. And as I was listening to this, I just thought to myself, you know, people can bash on new music as much as they want, and sometimes I do it too. You know, not so much musical quality, but maybe just the spirit of the scene that I feel is not always as exciting or as magical as it used to be. But Jesus Christ, when you hear a band that sounds like this, one, you cannot tell me that there's not good music coming out in black metal anymore. Two, you know, honestly, and I'm pointing the finger at myself here as well, you can't say that there aren't bands that don't capture the spirit of yesteryear. And three, it's just such a fucking joy to hear musicians in a band hit that flow state where it just sounds like whatever is coming out of them is just a natural expression of who they are. That is fucking absolutely fantastic, I think. I want to actually table an idea for you. When we do the top 30 extravaganza, normally left out of that countdown is EPs. Now, I'm going to continue to do that, but there have been so many good EPs this year. How about you and I, because it'll be a three-parter again, how about you and I connect on one of those parts, and we do us a top 5 EPs of 2025?
That sounds like a very good idea. That sounds like,
I think so,
a very because I do my top 15 albums with the Sinister Minister, and already that stresses me out. So I'm already on the stress train, so we might as well keep going. I was also, and this is my arrogance and ego talking, I was very grateful, of course, of We Are Legion, the Drugoth Sgah'gahsowáh split that you said last year was your favorite split of the year. That's kind of cool as well. But I'm glad you're doing the EP. The EP one would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think this year it definitely merits it. There's been so many good EPs that have been put out in 2025. I feel like they need their flowers too. Now, of course, we're at the 21st of September, so I'm going to make a prediction and say you're going to get the best of 2025 lists starting to drop from about the 15th of October. Decibel will be first to drop theirs, of course. But you can ignore those poser lists because you're going to hear the real deal starting mid-January right here on Into the Necrosphere. But on that note, my friend, we've been going for an hour and a half, so I'm going to wrap things up. Anything that you want to plug, mention, remind people of before we close off?
The new Drugoth album, The Indomitable Spirit of Merciless Vengeance, will be out November the 21st of this disgusting year. And that's about it. Listen to it, buy it, download it illegally. I don't give a fuck. Listen to it. That's all I care about.
And the first time that they got to hear a song off of that, of course, right here on the show. I will be back next week, my friends. Guests to be confirmed. I've got 2 in the can, both of which I'm super excited to share. I'll surprise you with who it ends up being. One of them, of course, you already know is Vincent from Acheron. I mean, that is a fucking banger of an episode, but I've got a couple of very cool things coming your way in the run-up to episode 300, which will be my last episode of 2025. That will drop on, I think, the week of December the 5th. December the 5th is when I fly to South Africa, so I think that's December the 2nd or 3rd that we'll do episode 300. But yeah, thanks very much for listening. If you've stuck around until the very end, I truly appreciate it. We are going to wrap up this episode of Into the Necrosphere in the most appropriate way possible. Not going to go with a classic at the gate song, because you all know those. A song, an album that I think deserved a lot more recognition when it came out. The song is Heroes and Tombs, one of the later career best vocal performances by Tomas Lindberg. That I think you can find anywhere. And of course, the album is not to drink from the night itself, At War with Reality, out on Century Media Records. That came out in 2014. Once again, travel well and rest in peace, Tomas Lindberg. Drugoth, thank you so much for your time. John from Blackbraid, thank you very much to him for his time. To the Legion, whatever it is that you are doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.